Hi guys, this is Hirosaki. This story is all about what if Naruto was the hope of the Senju clan. What if instead of Kushina being Naruto's mother, and through a trick of fate Naruto's mother was Tsunade after a drunken night with Minato in which Naruto becomes both the heir and hope of the Senju clan. Find out what life would be like now for Naruto. Before we start, kindly like and subscribe to this channel, and look over the description box for the author of this amazing storyline. Welcome aboard. Chapter 11 Teammates. Early next morning in the Hyuga clan compound. After the near-historic announcement by the Hokage at the news of Naruto's existence, the Hyuga Council, along with Hyuga Hayashi, had been discussing the news for much of the night, and the early parts of the morning, and how it affected the standing of their clan in Konoha. Who would have ever thought that Tsunade-sama would actually have a child? One could quite well restore the Senju clan in Konoha, spoke a Hyuga elder. None of us did, replied another elder. This could greatly affect our standing in Konoha, where if this boy actually succeeds in rebuilding his clan, then our clan's power and influence in the village will be greatly reduced, said yet another elder. Tell us, Hayashi, do you know anything of what the boy is capable of? Asked Hayashi's father, who was head of the Hyuga clan council. Unfortunately, no, as the Hokage said that he has no knowledge of the boy's capabilities, as he kept it secret, and it will not be revealed until Jiraiya-sama arrives to speak to him about it, answered Hayashi. The elders frowned at this, as knowing what Naruto was able to do could have helped them plan out what they were to do, and what to expect from the boy. Do we know who the boy's father is? Is he a foreign shinobi, a noble from Hai no Kuni, Fire Country, or some kind of commoner? Asked one elder. No, I do not know, as the Hokage claimed that he had no knowledge of who the boy's father was, as Tsunade-sama refused to tell, replied Hayashi. And do you believe him? Asked the same elder. I do not know, as it is possible that the Hokage does know who the boy's father was but refuses to tell for whatever reason, and it is also possible he does not know, as he said. But I believe it matters little as to who the boy father was, as the Hokage spoke. He was dead, and I believe him in that, said Hayashi. At this all the elders nodded, where then another elder then spoke up. Have you met or seen the boy yet? Asked the elder. No, as the boy was attending the academy when the Hokage announced the boy to us, and he was not with him when he announced the boy's existence to the rest of the village. My guess is that the Hokage is trying to keep the boy out of the view of large crowds and other influential groups, such as ourselves, for as long as possible, so that he won't be overwhelmed and used in the politics of the village, spoke Hayashi. Then we must find a way to gain the boy on our side, as the boy is a Senju, the main founders of this village, and when he older he will have enormous influence in the village, and will most likely have the people's support. His existence alone will shift a great deal of influence that our clan has had in the village to him, but if we can get the boy to ally with our clan, then the Hyuga clan's influence will grow greatly, said one of the elders. Hayashi, isn't your daughter Hinata in the same graduating class as the young Senju heir is in? Asked an elder. Yes, she is, and according to her, and to the Jonin tutor Yuhi Kurinai that I assigned to my daughter, Hinata has become quite friendly with the young Senju heir, and has already become friends with him, spoke Hayashi. Well, it seems that for once, the girl has actually done something right, and has finally proven herself useful to the clan. If she can somehow get close to the boy, we can then arrange a marriage between the two once the boy's mother arrives in the village. We can use the marriage to form an alliance between us and the Senju clan, where then our clan influence and power in the village will raise to unprecedented levels, spoke Hayashi's father. As Hayashi's father said this, Hayashi's face remained unreadable, and just nodded, but on the inside, he was frowning, since despite common belief Hayashi cared deeply for his family, especially after the loss of his brother, and then his beloved wife Hitomi. After which Hayashi adopted the cold hard exterior that people knew him for, so that people would believe that he did not care about his daughters, or more specifically Hinata. So that people would not try hurt her, to get back him. In reality he cared deeply for his daughter, as she reminded him so much of his wife Hitomi. The other reason why he was so hard on her was because he wanted Hinata to become strong enough to defend herself. This was why he was so hard on her, and had her become a ninja and not stay in the clan to become the heiress of the clan. Hence the idea of using Hinata as a political pawn, and having her married off to make the Hyuga clan stronger and more powerful in Konoha wasn't exactly what Hayashi wanted for her. But there was little he could do, as despite common belief, Hayashi did not have full control of his clan. Although as clan head he had control over most parts of the clan along with other things, he still did not have full control. Since when it came to things that would greatly affect the Hyuga clan itself in general, such as their bloodline or status in Konoha, then the Hyuga elders could take control and overrule him on whatever decision he could make. Which was exactly what they did, when the Kumo's ambassador tried to kidnap Hinata, and he killed him, where he then planned to offer himself up to prevent war from happening between Konoha and Kumo. But the elders had overruled him on his decision, believing that Hayashi was too valuable to die, where they then had his brother sent instead, and although Hayashi's brother Hisashi did it of his own free will, Hayashi still held a grudge against them for being the ones who suggested the idea and putting it in his brother's head. He also never forgave his father for it either, as it was he who came up with the idea to begin with, where he saved one of his son's life by sacrificing the other. So, it is agreed, spoke Hayashi's father suddenly and halting Hayashi's train of thought a moment ago. Once we have gathered enough knowledge of the young Senju heir abilities and skills, and once Hinata has gotten close enough to him, we will arrange with the boy's mother an arranged marriage between the two, thereby sealing an alliance between the Hyuga clan and the Senju clan. Upon the marriage between the two of them, we will place the cage bird seal along with our bloodline blocking seal on Hinata, so to keep our clan bloodline in the Hyuga clan, where any children that they may have will not have our bloodline. But even still the future generations of the Senju clan will still be from our own clan. Thereby we can use Hinata and that link to gain control and manipulate the clan, where the Hyuga clan will finally and truly become the strongest clan in Konoha. At this Hayashi frowned, as he did not like hearing the idea of the cage bird seal being placed on his eldest daughter, not to mention he did not like the Hyuga elders' plan, as something like this could be easily seen as treason, where many people could see this as the Hyuga clan trying to take over and interfering with another clan, which was forbidden by all clans to do. Not to mention there were still too many things that could go wrong, as past experiences on the battlefield had taught Hayashi that things rarely go according to plan. But we must hurry, as the other clans, not to mention other families in Konoha, will try and gain some kind of favor with the boy, and others will try and get their own daughters to get close to the boy so that they can arrange a marriage between their daughters and him. Yamanaka Inoichi's daughter would be the most dangerous of them all, as like with Hinata, she is in the same graduating class as the boy is. Not to mention that the Nara and Akimichi heirs could help her, as those three clans have been close with one another ever since their fathers were their ages, spoke another elder. Agreed then, spoke Hayashi's father, where he then turned to Hayashi himself. Hayashi, I want you to tell your daughter that she is to use whatever means necessary to get as close to the boy as possible, no matter what it takes. She could very well hold the fate of the Hyuga clan in Konoha in her hands. I understand, father, and I will tell her, replied Hayashi, after which he then left the room, where he would simply approve of his daughter's friendship with Naruto and encourage her to continue on with it. Which was not exactly what the elders wanted him to do, but still close enough, as it followed along their plan in some parts. Besides, who knows, with some luck perhaps Hinata can find love with Naruto in the arranged marriage between them, like he did with the arranged marriage with her mother Hitomi, that is, if Elder's plan works up to that point. But regardless of this, Hayashi knew he had no choice but to follow the Elder's plan, at least until he found some way that would allow him to be rid of them without causing bloodshed, in-house fighting or turmoil in the clan. At the academy. At about 9:30 in the morning, the graduating members of the class arrived in their classroom for the last time, as today they were going to meet their Jonin senseis and be formed into teams. The students all took their usually seats in the room. As Naruto entered the room, he saw Kiba and Akamaru. Although Akamaru yelped happily upon seeing Naruto, Kiba quickly turned away in a different direction that would allow him not to look at Naruto, as doing so reminded him too much of own personal humiliation. Although Kiba knew he should be grateful to Naruto for not only stopping him for being an accomplice to treason, but for also saving his life, as he had learned from the Iraka and the Hokage that if he had given Mizuki the scroll, he would have killed him. But even with this, Kiba still could not help but hold a grudge against Naruto, as every time he looked at Naruto, he would be reminded of how he had been duped, not to mention that he was still angry at how for the second time Naruto beat him easily, with just one hit. Kiba also believed that Naruto was nothing more than a silver spoon shinobi, where he was born into a powerful noble clan, with a Kage-level mother and godfather to give him special training, and was born naturally with talent thanks to his heritage. While kids like Kiba who were born from shinobi clans that weren't as revered or as powerful as Naruto's, had to work hard to gain any kind of real strength or to be noticed. People just naturally paid attention to Naruto just because of his heritage, while they ignore Kiba and those like him. Even Sasuke fitted in a similar category as Naruto, but he at least knew suffering and hardship with the loss of his clan. Naruto did not. As Kiba thought about last night, he could not help but feel lucky that was still a ninja, as the Hokage had decided to let him still be a genin, since he had been tricked and used by Mizuki. Unfortunately, his mother wasn't as forgiving as the Hokage, as Kiba could not help but cringe slightly at the memory, when he remembered his mother arriving in the Hokage's office, and after the Hokage told her everything that happened that night. The angry shouts and screams that came from his mother as she yelled at him could be heard all over Konoha that night, and nearly made everyone in the office go deaf. His mother had been furious with him when she learned what happened, where she shouted at how much he had shamed her and their clan, and about how he could have been duped so easily all over a simple grudge he held against Naruto. Once Tsum had stopped yelling, the Hokage told her that Kiba would be not been punished as he had been tricked, and the event would be kept hidden if Naruto agreed to, so that Kiba and the Inuzuka clan would not be disgraced to the rest of the village. His mother seemed to lessen her anger at him after hearing this, but even still she had not let Kiba off the hook for attacking Naruto and for being such an idiot. Where she told Kiba for the next 8 months he would be on kennel duty in the Inuzuka clan kennels, the worst job for any member in the Inuzuka clan, as he would have to clean up each one of the Inuzuka dog kennels each week, which also included picking up the dog's poop around the kennels. When Naruto saw Kiba looking away from him, he could only sigh as he could tell that Kiba still held some kind of foolish grudge against him for whatever reason. As he looked at Kiba, he also could not help but remember the talk he had with the Hokage earlier this morning, where he agreed to keep Kiba's part of the incident secret. Since although he thought Kiba was a jerk and a bit of an idiot, he didn't believe he or his clan deserved to be disgraced to the whole village because of one stupid mistake. Sarutobi of course had been happy to hear Naruto's choice, as he was on the same mind as Naruto and believed that Kiba could still make a fine ninja one day. Deciding to ignore Kiba, Naruto headed up to his seat next to Hinata, where he greeted her in his usual fashion. "Hey Hinata-chan, how are you today?" asked Naruto as he added the chan part, as he fully considered Hinata his friend now. Blushing at the informal suffix, Hinata stuttered out a greeting to her friend. Hinata had become a little less nervous around Naruto since yesterday, as she had gotten to know Naruto better. It also helped that her father actually seemed pleased that she had befriended Naruto, and later on even approved of her friendship with him, and even encouraged her to become better friends with him. For the next few minutes Naruto and Hinata talked, all the while not noticing the jealous glares that Hinata was getting from about half the girls from the class. After a little while, Ino and Sakura came into the classroom at exactly the same time, and where the two of them along with a few other girls in Sasuke fan club started to yell at a boy called Tai who was sitting in a seat next to Sasuke. After a minute or so of this, Naruto had enough and decided to go down to the girls and play peacemaker so to cease their insistent yelling. "Okay, that's enough you lot," said Naruto, as he stood in front of the groups of girls, which caused many of the boys in the class to wonder if Naruto was either very brave or very foolish or even a bit of both, as those few that had tired to stand up to Sasuke fan club usually ended up visiting the academy nurse. "Now look, Tai here was sitting here first, hence you can't force him to move just because he's sitting next to the Uchiha over there, and if you want a seat near him then sit around him in the empty seats around him, as there are plenty of them," said Naruto. Are he tired to reason with girls? Unfortunately for Naruto, fan girls could not be reasoned with, especially when it was about sitting next to their beloved Sasuke-kun. "Move it, Senju, you're in the way of true love between my Sasuke-kun and me," said Sakura, as she and two other girls pushed him aside next to Ino. After which Sakura and the two girls tried to pull Tai of his seat, while Sasuke just watched them with an annoyed expression on his face and thinking, stupid fangirls. When Sakura and the two girls grabbed onto the right sleeve of Tai's shirt and tried to pull Tai off his seat, Tai resisted the girls by pulling back so to stop them from pulling him off his seat. As they kept pulling on one another, eventually the sleeves of Tai's shirt ripped, which resulted everyone to fall back and crash into other people. Most of the girls fell back into the desks behind them or other girls who were behind them. Naruto unfortunately was also caught in his tumble of bodies, where he crashed into Ino, who was next to him, when someone pushed him. This caused both he and Ino to fail and tumble down the steps that led to the different desk levels. Eventually the two hit the bottom floor of the classroom where Naruto landed on the floor first on his back, with Ino landing on top of him. Once Ino regained her senses, she found herself staring right into Naruto's bright blue eyes, and was transfixed by them in a way. For a minute or so, Ino and Naruto just stared into each other's eyes, until Naruto suddenly spoke up. Ino-san, if you don't mind, could you get off me, please? Where when Ino looked at the position she was in with Naruto, she could not help but blush. As their noses were just a hair strand away from touching on another, Ino's hands were on Naruto's chest, while Naruto's own hands were holding onto Ino's waist, and Ino's left leg was dangerous close between Naruto's legs in a very intimate manner. Upon fully realizing the situation she was in, Ino quickly jumped up off Naruto with a large heap, as she was too embarrassed at what just happened that she could not scream or shout. Fortunately for Ino and Naruto, no one had been paying any attention to what was happening to them, as they were too focused on something else. Where when Sakura and the other girls fell backwards, Tai also fell backwards, whereas he turned around and tried brace himself. As he fell, he collided with Sasuke, and they fell to the ground together and accidentally locked lips with one another for a few seconds. Much to the shock of everyone in the classroom, especially to Sasuke's fangirls, as they could not believe what they saw, and were furious at the same time, as Tai had stolen Sasuke's first kiss. Quickly the two boys jumped apart from one another and began to spit out the taste of the other's lips. Unfortunately for Tai, Sasuke's fangirls did not take well to the fact that he stole their Sasuke-kun's fist kiss from them. After which Sasuke fangirls, minus Ino, pounced on Tai and proceeded to beat Tai into a bloody pulp for the next few minutes, where it only ended with the arrival of Irika. Once the class had been seated, with Tai sitting back on his seat despite what he went through, and Sakura sitting right behind Sasuke, and Naruto sitting back next to Hinata, Irika started to call out the teams, their numbers, and what senseis they had. Next, Team 7, which will have Haruno Sakura, Uchiha Sasuke, and Senju Naruto, and your sensei will be Hatake Kakashi, spoke Irika, but before he could call out the members of Team 8, Sakura started to cheer and shout. "Ha! True love wins. Take that, Ino pig!" cried Sakura with joy as she got to be with her Sasuke-kun. Strangely enough, Ino remained quiet during Sakura victory cheering, which surprised many as they expected her yell about it being unfair and would start to whine and complain. As Sakura continued to cheer, her other teammates did not share her joy. "Kami must hate me right now for some reason to put me on the same team of the class Emo and his fangirl. Sure, I could put being with just the Uchiha, but why did SHE have to be on it?" thought Naruto. Although he had no real reason to like or dislike Sasuke, he could tell that by the personality of Sasuke, of how he would always brood and look down at others, think that they were worthless, that he wasn't going to get on too well with him. But at least I have that Kakashi guy as my sensei, as according to Ero Sennin he's the strongest jonin in Konoha and was Tsunade student. Maybe I can learn some more things about Tsunade from him, thought Naruto as he thought on the positive side. So, I'm on the same team as a worthless fangirl and the Senju at least won't be a total waste of space like her, thought Sasuke, as he made a quick glance at Sakura, before he glanced at Naruto, and I will at least have someone who might challenge me and to test myself against. Let's just hope that this Hatake can teach me something useful to use against him. Once Irika had told Sakura to calm down and sit back down, he went on to state the other teams. Team 8 was made up of Hinata, Shino and Kiba, with Yuhi Kurinai as their Jonin sensei. When Hinata heard this, she was of course pleased to know that Kurinai was her sensei, although was a bit disappointed that Naruto wasn't on her team, where she would have at least be friends with someone on her team. As she did not know Kiba all that well and she was kind of nervous around Shino as she was kind of intimidated by him, but still she hoped that they would get along after some time. After calling out the members of Team 9, Irika called out the members Team 10, which was made up of Choji, Ino and Shikamaru with Sarutobi Asuma as their Jonin sensei. Naturally many people expected Ino to shout out, cry and complain about not being on the same team as Shikamaru and Choji, but much to their surprise Ino remained quiet after the announcement. After a few more minutes the remaining other teams were announced by Irika, after which Irika called the Jonin senseis that were waiting outside the classroom, where once they entered Irika left the room. Hinata soon said goodbye to Naruto as she went to join Kurenai and her new team. They were soon followed by Ino, Choji and Shikamaru, and their new sensei Asuma, who was the younger son of the Sandaime Hokage. After a little while all the new genins except for Team 7 had left with their new senseis, Naruto then went down to the ground floor and began to start working on setting up a prank for Kakashi. As Jiraiya had told him all about his father's former student, who was regularly late for appointments as a way for honoring another student of his father's who died on a mission. "Senju, what the hell are you doing?" cried Sakura. "What does it look like?" "I'm setting up a trap," answered Naruto, while not even turning to look at Sakura. "Why?" asked Sakura. "Because the sensei that we have has a reputation of always being late for appointments, hence I'm making this trap to teach him a lesson about being late," replied Naruto. "Oh, you're going to be in so much trouble with Sensei if you do that," said Sakura, while inside inner Sakura was saying cha. "I love it. Teach that Baka Sensei a lesson." "What do you think, Sasuke-kun?" asked Sakura with a dreamy look. "Humph, I like care," replied Sasuke. "Sasuke-kun is Susu Kukul," though Sakura dreamily. After a little while Naruto was finished making his trap for Kakashi, where he then sat down, opened up a book and stated to read it. 2 hours later. After spending 2 hours paying his respects to the memorial stone, Kakashi decided to go and see his new students, 2 of which would be interesting to meet as one was Uchiha Sasuke, the last loyal Uchiha in Konoha, while the other was Senju, Naruto's son of Tsunade of the Sannin. Naturally, like everyone, Kakashi was stunned that Tsunade had a child. He was further surprised that he would be his sensei, although considering how the academy set up the teams he should not have been. When the teams had been sorted out, several senseis had stated that the teams were unbalanced as Kakashi had the top kunoichi, along with the Uchiha and Senju heirs, both of whom were already considered by many as prodigies. Since although Naruto was classed the dead last, many still considered him a prodigy, as he was only made the dead last because he did not fully attend the academy, and his score was only based on the exam, which he passed with flying colors. Not top mention the news of Naruto single-handedly defeating Mizuki had already spread to the other shinobi ranks, further proving the claim that Naruto was a prodigy. But even despite the complaints, the Hokage stated that if he changed them now, they would have to rearrange all the teams again. But stated that once he knew what Naruto's capabilities were, and if he made the team unbalanced, he would change the team in some form, which settled the shinobis that complained. As Kakashi made his way to the classroom, Kakashi noticed a chalk eraser stuck on the door, which would fall on his head once he opened it. The old chalk eraser on the door gag. That takes me back, though Kakashi with fond memories as he remembers Obito played the same trick before one time. But still, you think that these kids could think of something more originally than this. Oh well, might as well play along. Kakashi then slid the door open and let the eraser fall on his head, which made Sasuke wonder if Kakashi was really a jonin if he fell for that lame gag. Although there was much more to the prank that Kakashi, Sasuke or Sakura thought, as the chalk eraser was just something to distract Kakashi from the real pranks, which was a trip wire at the door that Kakashi activated when his foot crossed the wire and he entered the classroom. When Kakashi hit the trip wire, a massive stink bomb dropped from above the door and exploded at the door. Fortunately, Kakashi, being a trained shinobi, was able to get away from the stink bomb before it exploded. But when Kakashi moved away from the stink bomb, he tripped over another trip wire, which launched a flurry of kunai at him. Kakashi, although quickly used a Kawarimi no Jutsu body replacement technique, and replaced himself with a nearby chair, which the kunais hit. But unfortunately, when Kakashi replaced himself, he activated yet another trap, where he reappeared and stood on a loose floorboard that was actually a trap and exploded, covering him entirely in orange paint, much to Naruto's amusement as he laughed at the now orange Kakashi. Gomen Sensei, but it was all Naruto's doing, neither Sasuke-kun nor I were involved at that stupid prank, said Sakura, while inside her mind inner Sakura was cheering madly at how she loved it, and it was great. Well now that I have met you all, I have only one to say, I hate you all. Especially you, said Kakashi as he looked and glared slightly at Naruto, who just grinned back and saluted Kakashi. Okay you three, I want you all to meet me at the roof in 10 minutes, said Kakashi, as he used the Shunshin no Jutsu, body flicker technique, to disappear in a swirl of leaves leaving Sasuke, Naruto and Sakura alone in the classroom. See you guys up there replied Naruto, as he then disappeared in the same way as Kakashi, much to Sasuke and Sakura's surprise. After seeing this Sasuke frowned, but quickly decided to head up to the rooftop, where he left the room, with Sakura following behind him, and saying to wait up for her. When Sasuke and Sakura arrived, they found Naruto sitting on a stone bench that was on the roof reading his book as he waited to them. In front of him was also a now clean Kakashi who was reading his own book, an Ika book. Once Sasuke and Sakura had sat down next to Naruto, Kakashi snapped his book close and looked at them. Okay you three, I think we should try and get to know each other better, so how about you each tell me your name, what you like, what you dislike, your dreams for the future, and your hobbies. How about you go first Sensei so we know what we have to say, said Sakura, which caused Naruto to roll his eyes slightly as it was obvious that they had to do. Okay then, I'm Hatake Kakashi, things I like and things I hate. I don't feel like telling you that. My dreams for the future, never really thought about it. As for my hobbies, I have lots of hobbies. This of course caused Sasuke to frown and Sakura to look disappointed as it didn't really tell them anything about him other than his name. Naruto on the other hand smirked as he expected Kakashi be secretive and cryptic as he didn't like people knowing too much about him. After hearing Kakashi reply he decided to rain on Kakashi parade. Well I guess I have to tell them a bit about you then. Like he said his name is Hatake Kakashi, he is the only son of Hatake Tsukumo, also known as the Konoha no Shiroi Kiba, Konoha's White Fang. At a young age he was regarded as an extremely gifted prodigy, where he graduated from the academy in a single year at the top of his class at age 5. He became a Chunin at age 6 and a Jonin at age 13, where he is considered today as one of Konoha's strongest shinobis. He is also the last surviving student of the Yondaime Hokage, and is also the only person outside of the Uchiha clan to have, and wield the Uchiha clan's Sharingan Dojutsu bloodline. Spoke Naruto. Where when he said that Kakashi had the Sharingan, Sasuke suddenly becomes very interested in what Naruto had to say about Kakashi. Which is why he is known throughout the shinobi world as Sharingan no Kakashi, Kakashi of the Sharingan, and Kopi Ninja no Kakashi, Copy Ninja Kakashi, and is said to have copied and mastered over 1,000 different jutsus. He has several high-ranking bounties on his head, and is ranked as a high A-ranked level shinobi, as he completed 1,141 official missions in total, 197 D rank, 190 C rank, 414 B rank, 298 A rank, 42 S rank. His likes are reading Ika books and eating salt-broiled sori and miso soup with eggplant. He dislikes are traitors, those who turn their back on their comrades and abandon them, any fried or sweet food, and being photographed without his mask. His hobbies are reading the Ika series, and his dreams of the future are to write his own series of the books, spoke Naruto. Where once he finished, both Sasuke and Sakura looked at him in surprise as he knew more about their sensei than either of them did. But none of them were more surprised, or to be more precise, stunned to hear all this than Kakashi, as Naruto knew basically everything about him, if not more than most of the people in Konoha knew about him. The only real sign of Kakashi showing his shock was the raised eyebrow from his one revealing eye, which had slightly widened in surprise. Well, now that was unexpected, but impressive, and may I ask where you learned all this from, Blondie? Asked Kakashi. Naruto just narrowed his eyes slightly at the nickname as he did not like it, but decided to ignore it, and then smirked, while Hitatsu-san won, which caused Kakashi to raise his eyebrow again at the nickname. My godfather is quite good at gathering information on people, and besides you tell a lot about yourself in your fan mail to him. Which caused Kakashi to sigh as he quickly realized that Jiraiya was Naruto's godfather, and it did make a bit of sense, as it would be only naturally that Tsunade would make her former teammate her son's godfather. Hence Jiraiya would most likely have told Naruto all about him. Although what Kakashi thought was not entirely untrue, there was still something he did not know, which was that Jiraiya also taught Naruto how to make contact with his spy network in case he needed to make contact to Jiraiya. When he could not contact him through normal means, or if Naruto needed information on certain people or groups and Jiraiya was not around to get the information for him. But that did not mean that Naruto had full run of Jiraiya's spy network or knew how to run it to its full extent. Naruto only had contact with a few select parts of it. Jiraiya still had to teach him more about it, and how to run it effectively. Okay then, Mr. Smarty Pants, why don't you tell us about yourself then, replied Kakashi. Fine then, replied Naruto, my name is Senju Naruto. My likes include ramen, my kachan, shizun wanichan, our pet pig Tauntaun, arrow senin, playing pranks, my friends, training and reading. I dislike bullies, traitors, the 3 minutes that take to cook my ramen, and perverts, said Naruto. Which made Kakashi slightly nervous when Naruto said he didn't like perverts, where he then gave Kakashi a look that seemed eerily familiar to him in some way. Even though Kakashi was not a pervert, he did read Jiraiya's adult porno books, hence as far as Naruto was concerned it made him one. My hobbies are training, reading and gardening and making perverts suffer. My dreams for the future are to be a great medic nin like my Kaachan, to restore my clan and to be the greatest Hokage. That way, people will stop always comparing me to the rest of my family and acknowledge me as myself, and not someone related to great ninjas, said Naruto with confidence. After hearing this, Kakashi had to admit that Naruto certainly didn't dream or think small, considering what he wanted to do. Then again, being Hokage was in his blood in a way, and he certainly had a good chance at being a powerful medic considering he had his mother to train him. Not to mention he could very well rebuild the Senju clan in Konoha, which was something many people were hoping he would do one day. But still, it would be some time before Naruto would even have a chance to be or do any of these things, and only time will tell if he can. Wait, who is Arrow Senin? Asked Sakura. He's my godfather Jiraiya? Replied Naruto. You mean Jiraiya-sama of the Sannin? Asked Sakura in surprise, where Naruto just nodded his head in acknowledgement, while Sasuke raised his eyebrow in interest. How can you call a great ninjas like Jiraiya-sama something like that? Asked Sakura in surprise at Naruto's blatant disrespect of one of Konoha's greatest shinobis. I can call him whatever I want, as he is my godfather, and besides, he is the biggest pervert you could ever meet. As he spends a lot of his time peeking on girls in the hot spring for his so-called research for the trashy perverted books that he writes and Kakashi-sensei reads, answered Naruto. Where Kakashi nodded, confirming what Naruto said was true, although he did not like Naruto calling Jiraiya books trashy, since as far as Kakashi was concerned, Jiraiya's books were a work of literally art. Sakura was of course left wordless, as she still found it hard to believe that a great ninja like Jiraiya wrote porno books. Deciding to get back to the matter at hand, Kakashi decided to speak up. Okay then, how about your pinky? Why don't you tell us about yourself next? Said Kakashi, which caused Sakura to scowl when Kakashi called her pinky. My name is Haruno Sakura. My likes are. Looks at Sasuke and giggles. My hobbies are playing trivia games and. Looks again at Sasuke and giggles. My dislikes are Ino Buta, Ino Pig, along with Ami and her gang. My dreams of the future. Looks at Sasuke yet again and starts to blush and giggle madly again. After hearing this, Kakashi just shook his head, while Naruto resisted the urge to roll his eyes again, while Sasuke just scoffed and looked away from Sakura. Okay then, last but not least, broody over there, spoke Kakashi as he looked at Sasuke. Sasuke only scowled slightly at Kakashi's nickname and then spoke, my name is Uchiha Sasuke. I hate a lot of things, and I don't particularly like anything. What I have is not a dream, because I will make it a reality. I'm going to restore my clan and kill a certain someone. Yesh, could it kill this guy to lighten up a little, instead of brooding and thinking darkly all the time, thought Naruto. Sigh, I was afraid of this. It seems the loss of his clan has made him revenge-driven. Not that I blame him though, but still if he keeps following this path it will only lead to more sorrow, for him and everyone around him. Let's just hope that I can convince him that there are better ways, before it's too late, thought Kakashi as he knew he had a lot of work with Sasuke ahead, that is if they passed the test. Sasuke-kun is so cool though Sakura, as she started dreamily, and the brooding Uchiha. Well now that we know each other a bit better, I think it's time I tell you about the test. Spoke Kakashi before Sakura suddenly spoke up in confusion. Test? What test? We already had our test, Sensei. At this Kakashi just smiled. You didn't think that becoming a full genin was just passing a written exam and some small test, did you? This of course caused Sakura to blush slightly as she actually did. Now as I was saying, there will be a test tomorrow morning, and I expect you all to be there at 3rd training ground, and I want you all there at 7 a.m. sharp, and don't eat breakfast as you just throw it up during the test, spoke Kakashi, after which he saluted the 3 genin, and then disappeared again in a whirl of leaves again. Once Kakashi left, Naruto left in the same manner again, saying he see them in the morning. Once Naruto left, Sakura turned to Sasuke. Sasuke-kun, would you like to go out for some dinner? She asked hopefully. No, replied simply, and left the roof to go home and train, with Sakura following after him, asking him to wait up and trying to convince him to have dinner with her. 9 a.m. Training Ground 3 next to the Memorial Stone. Currently waiting at Training Ground 3 were 2 genins. These genins were Sakura and Sasuke, and had been waiting for their sensei and their other teammate Naruto to show. They had been at the training ground since 7 in the morning, and had been waiting for them for 2 hours. By which time both of them were reaching the end of their patience. Just when the 2 of them were about to leave the training ground and look for their missing sensei and teammate, a swirl of leaves appeared in front of them. Once the leaves were cleared, they saw that it was Naruto. Naruto Baka, you're late, cried Sakura as she was about ready to lay a beat down on Naruto for making them wait, regardless of who he was and related to, as she needed something to take her frustration out on, and Naruto was the best option. Cringing at the loudness of Sakura's voice, Naruto just looked at Sakura, as if she was stupid. Weren't you 2 listening to me yesterday in the classroom as we waited for Kakashi-sensei? Kakashi-sensei has a reputation of always being at least 2 hours late, hence when he said 7 a.m. I knew he wouldn't show till at least 9 a.m. At this Sasuke began to scowl and curse himself for not remembering that. Sakura was equally angry at herself. I'm also guessing that since you came here at the time he told us, you both skipped breakfast, stated Naruto as he had eaten his. Neither Sasuke nor Sakura answered Naruto's statement as both their stomachs growled from hungry, as they had both skipped breakfast and knew they had been duped by Kakashi. Frustrated at being tricked by Kakashi, Sakura needed something to release her anger on, and Naruto was going to be it. Fortunately for Sakura, Kakashi arrived before anything could happen, where he greeted them with a goofy greeting. Good, everyone here, we can get started now and said Kakashi, but was stopped by Sakura screaming. Sensei, you're late. Sorry I'm late, a black cat crossed my path, and I had to take the long way round, he replied, which caused Sakura to sweat drop, Sasuke to wonder again if Kakashi really was a jonin, and Naruto to smile at Kakashi antics. Once everything had settled down though, Kakashi went on to explain the bell test, telling them that they had until noon to capture one of 2 bells, where they would each have a 33% chance of capturing a bell. He also explained to them that if none of them were able to capture at least 1 bell, then they would fail and be sent back to the academy. Kakashi then set the clock to go off at noon, after which he told them to begin the test and hide. Quickly Naruto and the others jumped into the different hiding spots in the nearby forestry and began to plan what they each would have to do. As they did this, Kakashi waited in the clearing outside the forestry and waited for the genin to attack. It seems that they hidden themselves pretty well, but let's see what they will do, and if they figure out the true meaning of the test, though Kakashi. With Naruto sitting on a large tree branch behind the main trunk of the tree, Naruto watched Kakashi. As he did, he began to wonder what he was going to do. Naruto knew in a one-on-one fight a genin stood no chance against a fully trained jonin. Even as skilled as he was, Naruto knew a shinobi of Kakashi's caliber was far above him. Even though Kakashi did not know what Naruto was fully capable of, and would most likely underestimate him, his chances of beating Kakashi were still very small. Naruto knew that the odds of him getting a bell would only go up if Sasuke and Sakura worked with him, but even if they got the bells there were only two, meaning that one of them would fail. That was the thing that confused Naruto the most, as his mother in Shizen had told him that all shinobi genin teams were made up of 3 genins and 1 jonin sensei. The only exception being when a high-level shinobi takes on a single genin as an apprentice like his mother did with Shizune. As Naruto thought about the test more, it suddenly hit him, where he smacked himself on the forehead for being such a baka. Naruto remembered when he was younger, his mother told him the story about how she, Jiraiya and Orochimaru became a team, and how the Sandaime used a bell test, just like what Kakashi was using now to test them. Naruto also remembered the story Jiraiya told him when he was 11 about how he had used the very same test on Naruto's father and his teammates. When Naruto realized this, it all made perfect sense, since Jiraiya had used the same test on Naruto's father and his teammates, and Naruto's father no doubt in turn used the same test on Kakashi and his teammates, and he was now using the same test on them. After realizing this, Naruto knew the secret behind the bell test. It did not matter if they got the bells, it only mattered if they worked together. Even if they believed that one of them would fail, just like on a shinobi mission where there was nearly always a high chance that one of them would die. Kakashi had even hinted the meaning of the test, as he had said that they each had a 33% chance of passing the test. Naruto then realized that if they each had a 33% chance of getting the bell by themselves, then if they worked together, they would then have a 99% chance of getting the bells. Naruto had to admit it was a clever test with hidden meaning, but even though he knew the meaning of the test, it did not mean that he would pass now, as figuring out the meaning of the test was the easy part. Getting Sasuke and Sakura to work with him to get the bells was the hard part, but still if he wanted to pass this test, he needed to work with them and convince them to work with him. After realizing all this, Naruto suddenly heard a girl scream coming from his left. Realizing that it was Sakura, Naruto quickly ran over to Sakura's position. Quickly enough he arrived to see Kakashi standing over a now unconscious Sakura, who by the look of it had fainted. Yesh. I didn't think I went that hard on her, as I only used Megan Narakumi no Jutsu, demonic illusion, hell viewing technique, spoke Kakashi as he looked down at the unconscious girl. Upon hear this, Naruto could not help but shake his head, as he knew that Genjutsu, and it was a weak D rank level 1, how the hell that girl ever become top kunoichi in the academy, let alone a kunoichi, is beyond me, thought Naruto as he shook his head. Quickly deciding to save Sakura, Naruto quickly threw several kunai at Kakashi, who quickly dodged the sneak attack. After which Naruto quickly used the Kage Bunshin no Jutsu, shadow clone technique, to create 4 shadow clones to engage Kakashi. The 4 clones quickly drew their katanas and engaged Kakashi, who quickly defeated and dispelled them all by several quick hard strikes. Although once he had done that, he realized that the clones were just a distraction, as when he defeated the clones and looked over to Sakura, he saw that she was gone. Well, now this is an interesting turn of events. Perhaps this team might actually pass, thought Kakashi. He saw that Naruto had used the clones to distract him, so he could save Sakura. With Naruto and Sakura. Once Naruto had gotten to a safe enough distance from Kakashi, he laid Sakura on the ground and placed his front finger on Sakura's forehead and pumped a small bit of chakra into the girl to wake her up. After a few seconds, Sakura quickly opened her eyes, where after a moment or two cried out, "Sasuke-kun." Hey, easy Sakura, you're okay," said Naruto as he tried to calm the frantic girl down. Okay, cried Sakura. "How can be okay when Sasuke-kun is dead?" said the girl as she was on the verge of tears at the death of her lost love. SSSSSSSHHHHHHH, hissed Naruto, as he tried to get the girl to be quiet. "Sasuke isn't dead, he alive. It was all just a genjutsu that Kakashi-sensei used to trick you." "You mean Sasuke-kun isn't dead?" asked the Sakura. "Yes," replied Naruto earnestly. Upon hearing this, Sakura was about to cry out in joy that her Sasuke-kun was alive, but thankfully Naruto covered her mouth to stop her from shouting and giving their position always to Kakashi. After which he then told her that she had to be quiet, where she finally nodded in understanding, where Naruto removed his hand from her mouth. Okay Hirono, now listen up, I think I have figured out the test, and I'm going to need your help. Spoke Naruto before he was interrupted by Sakura. Why the hell should I help you, Senju? Asked Sakura. Because it's the only way that we're going to pass, as the both of us and Sasuke have to work together to beat Kakashi, and get the bells from him and pass this test, replied Naruto. No way, my Sasuke-kun is the best, he will get both bells from Kakashi-sensei, and will give me the other one where we will then both pass and be together as it should be, while you go back to the academy, said the pink-haired girl. Haruno, you don't understand what I'm telling you, you're letting your stupid crush over the Uchiha to blind you. The bells don't matter, the real meaning of the test is spoke Naruto before he was interrupted by Sakura again. I understand perfectly, Senju, you plan to use Sasuke-kun and me to get the bells for you, and then take them off us and keep them to yourself when we've done all the hard work. So that you will pass and we will fail and go back to the academy, because you know that Sasuke-kun is cooler and better than you in everything and want to get rid of both him and me. But I won't let you, Sasuke-kun and I are going to get the bells together, and we'll be a team, and he will finally fall in love with me, said the deluded fangirl, after which she then left to find her Sasuke-kun. Eric. Stupid fangirl, I'm beginning to see why Kaachan hates them so much, said Naruto to himself, after which he then decided to see if he could find the Uchiha. After a few minutes he found Sasuke attacking Kakashi. With Sasuke quickly attacked Kakashi with several kunais and shurikens from behind from a nearby tree. Kakashi of course dodged the attack by using Kawarimi no Jutsu, after which Sasuke then engaged Kakashi in a taijutsu battle, where Sasuke showed impressive taijutsu skill in fighting against Kakashi by pushing him back and having him on the defensive. Although when one looked closely, they could easily tell that Kakashi was only playing with Sasuke and wasn't taking him seriously. Realizing this, Sasuke jumped away and threw several more kunai at Kakashi, who skillfully dodged them. Although as he did, he fell for a trap that Sasuke had laid out for him, where several more kunais and shurikens were fired at him from a nearby tree when Sasuke cut the rope line with one of the kunais that he had thrown at Kakashi a moment ago and activated the trap. As Kakashi dodged the kunais and shurikens, Sasuke quickly raced over to Kakashi and once again engaged him in a taijutsu battle, but as Kakashi blocked all of Sasuke's hits, he quickly realized that Sasuke wasn't just attacking, he was trying to get close to him so that he could grab one of the bells. Whereupon, realizing this, Kakashi saw that Sasuke was about to grab one of the bells on his sides. Seeing this, Kakashi quickly jumped away in time, where Sasuke was only able to touch the one of the bells. At the near capture, Kakashi sighed slightly with relief. Well, now that was close. This kid is fierce, and I have to admit he does have a lot of talent as well, he thought. After nearly getting the bell, Sasuke decided to take things up a notch, where he quickly did a few hand seals, and then cried out Katan, Gokakyu no Jutsu, fire style, great fireball technique, where he expelled from his mouth a massive orb of roaring flame. Both Kakashi and Naruto were greatly surprised by Sasuke knowing AC rank fire ninjutsu level technique like that and being able to use that effectively, as most genins should not have enough chakra to do a fire technique of that level, as it took too much chakra. When the massive fire hit Kakashi, Sasuke quickly ran over to him as the flames died so get the bells. Unfortunately, when Sasuke got to the spot, he could not find Kakashi. Where did he go? Behind me, above. Though Sasuke, as he looked all around each direction for any sign of the Jonin sensei. Looking for me, said Kakashi as he grabbed Sasuke's right leg from underground as he used Doton, Shinju Zanchu no Jutsu, Earth style, double suicide decapitation technique, and pulled him underground, leaving just Sasuke head above ground. After which Kakashi came out from the ground and kneeled down at Sasuke, who was glaring at him and angry at being humiliated in this way as he could not move. Well, I will admit you have talent, Sasuke, but you're still not quite at my level yet, and have a long way to go, said Kakashi, where he would have continued had it not been for several smoke bombs exploded around them. When the The smoke cleared, Kakashi was holding onto Naruto and Sasuke was still stuck in the same spot he was in. "Nice try Naruto, but not good enough, as the same trick won't work on me twice," spoke Kakashi with some humor in his voice, although that was quickly replaced with surprise as Naruto and Sasuke both smirked and the puffed out of existence. Upon realizing he had been duped again by Naruto, Kakashi could not help but smile to himself, although the only sign of him smile was the U-shape eye smile that could be seen thanks to his mask and headband covering the rest of his face. Sneaking devil, he used the smoke screen not only to cover his rescue of Sasuke, but his escape as well, where he used a Kawarimi no Jutsu to replace Sasuke with a shadow clone, and had it henge into Sasuke. So I would think he hadn't freed him, and then when I caught him he used the Kawarimi no Jutsu to replace himself with another shadow clone. I have to admit he mastered the basic ninjutsus well and knows how to use them effectively, not to mention he has mastered the Kagebunshin no Jutsu to an impressive level and can use it just as effectively as the other jutsus. The kid's definitely a Senju, that's for sure, and considering that he rescued both Sasuke and Sakura, he may have figured out the secret to the test as well. The only things left are, can he get the others to work with him, and if so, what will they do to try get the bells from me? Thought Kakashi as he walked around the clearing. With Naruto and Sasuke. "Let go of me, dope," said Sasuke as he got out of Naruto grip after Naruto had pulled him away out of the smoke screen after he got out of the ground. "Yesh. A little gratitude would be nice, team, as I just saved your sorry ass, and who are you calling dope?" said Naruto with annoyed frown. "You, since that what you are," stated Sasuke. At this Naruto could scoffed, "Well, if I'm such a dope, then why was it you that was stuck in the ground, and I was the one that saved your arrogant ass, which I'm already beginning to regret as of now," said Naruto. Sasuke of course glared at Naruto's remark as he didn't like being reminded that he had been beaten so easily, and how Naruto had saved him. "I never asked you for your help, and I don't need it." "Ha!" said Naruto in mock laughter, "Save the tough talk for your fangirls, team, you, and I know that you can't beat Kakashi-sensei by yourself. I don't think I can either, as he has more skill and experience than the both of yous combined, but we might stand a chance if we can work together to get the bells." At this Sasuke scoffed, "You, me. Working together, don't make me laugh, Senju. I don't need your help or anyone else, I can get those bells by myself. You guys would just slow me down, as relying on others is for the weak." After which Sasuke left Naruto to go and make another attempt at getting the bells from Kakashi. Stubborn, stupid, baka, team though Naruto when Sasuke left, as he knew that if Sakura and Sasuke did not work with him to try and get the bells, then they would all fail. But the two of them were too overconfident and full of themselves, or obsessed in Sakura's case, to work with him, or even try. Damn those bakas, why of all the teams I could have been put on I had to be stuck with these two. If it had been anyone else, I might have gotten them to work with me, but these two just won't listen to reason. Now there is only one chance of us passing this exam, and I had hoped not to go all out, at least until after I was fully installed into a team. But now I have no choice, as it's my only chance to pass this test, thought Naruto. With Kakashi. After Naruto's rescue of Sasuke, Kakashi wandered around the clearing waiting for Naruto and possibly the others to make their next attempt. After waiting a few minutes, Kakashi was starting to get bored and was about to get his Ika Paradise book from his pouch and read it while waiting. But before he could even try, he suddenly felt a chakra signature approach him. After a few seconds, Naruto appeared in the clearing by himself. "Well, is it your turn now, Naruto? I'm kind of surprised that you're here by yourself. I thought Sakura and Sasuke would be with you after you rescued them," spoke Kakashi, as he kept an eye out for them in case Naruto was a distraction, so that Sasuke and Sakura could sneak up on him. "Unfortunately, they aren't, as they didn't want to work with me," replied Naruto calmly. "Well, that's unfortunate," replied Kakashi, although he wasn't surprised, as all the other teams he tested failed to realize the true meaning of the test. But still Kakashi was disappointed when he heard this, and had actually hoped that this team would pass, as Naruto obviously had figured out the true meaning of the test. Not to mention that both he and Sasuke showed a lot of potentially as shinobis. Even Sakura, where once she got out of her fangirl stage, grew up and trained hard, would make a fine kunoichi one day. Oh well, maybe next time though, Kakashi, before he turned his attention on Naruto again. So now that they won't help you, are you going to give up? Or are you going to try and get the bells from me? I going for the bells, replied Naruto simply. Oh. Even after you saw what I did to Sakura and Sasuke, do you honestly think you can do any better than them and beat me? Asked Kakashi. I know that the odds are against me and it's unlikely that I beat you, but still that doesn't mean I shouldn't at least try. Besides, no matter what kind of obstacle I'm up against, I never give up and I never go back on my word, because that my ninja way, stated Naruto with nothing but confidence. Upon hearing this, Kakashi could not help but smile behind his mask, as he liked Naruto's attitude, as it reminded him a lot of his former teammate Obito. Well then, if that the case, then you better come at me with the intention to kill me, as that the only chance you have of getting these bells, spoke Kakashi calmly, as he believed he could handle anything Naruto could throw at him. Fine then, said Naruto, as he quickly races through the gap between him and Kakashi, engaged him in a fierce taijutsu battle. For the next few minutes Naruto attacked Kakashi with a series of hard and fast jabs and punches, which Kakashi was able to dodge and block effectively enough. Although was having some difficulty as he was unfamiliar with the taijutsu style that Naruto was using, as it was not your typical taijutsu style. As Kakashi was blocking and dodging Naruto's jabs and punches, Naruto saw a slight opening and took it by trying to deliver a hard elbow strike to Kakashi's neck, but just before he could hit it, Kakashi blocked the strike by catching Naruto's elbow in his left hand. Not to be deterred, Naruto tried to deliver a knee strike to the left side of Kakashi's head, but yet again Kakashi was able to block it with his left elbow. In an impressive feat of flexibility and agility, Naruto was able to push himself off Kakashi and do a mid-air spin kick and hit the right side of Kakashi's head. Unfortunately, when Naruto hit Kakashi, he turned into a wooden log, showing that Kakashi had used a Kawarimi no Jutsu to avoid being hit by Naruto. Well, that was exciting, spoke Kakashi as he was leaning against a tree nearby, whereupon seeing him, Naruto quickly spun around, fell into a taijutsu stance. The kid is certainly something else, though, Kakashi, as he looked at Naruto with a calculating glaze which was hidden by an amused look. His attacks are hard and fast, and are just as fierce as Sasuke's, yet I can tell that whatever style he's using, he has yet to fully master it, as I can still see flaws in them. Before we continue any further, perhaps you can tell me the name of the style you're using, as I'm unfamiliar with it, and I have never seen it before, asked Kakashi with generally curiosity. As he could tell that given time and enough training, Naruto could be quite dangerous with the style once he mastered it. The style has no name yet, as I created it myself and have not thought of a good name for it yet, replied Naruto, surprising Kakashi and shocking both Sasuke and Sakura, who had been watching the fight between Kakashi and Naruto from separate hidden positions in the forestry. You created that style yourself? Asked Kakashi with unmasked surprise, where Naruto just nodded, after which Kakashi could only shake his head in amusement. At the fact that a boy Naruto's age was creating his own fighting style, and was already proving that it could one day become an extremely powerful style one day. I guess the Senju clan blood runs true after all, as only a child from that clan could do something like this, he thought in amusement. Deciding to try and make Naruto lose focus, Kakashi took out his Ika Paradise book and pretended to read, as he hoped that he could get Naruto angry and lose focus. When Naruto saw the book, he began to narrow his eyes in slight anger. What do you think you are doing? Asked an annoyed Naruto. What does it look like I'm readying? Replied Kakashi as he turned a page and continued to pretend to read, believing he was getting to Naruto. Unfortunately for Kakashi, Naruto was not fooled by Kakashi's trick, as his mother had already trained Naruto not to lose his cool in a fight, and trained him not to fall for oblivious poly like the one Kakashi was using. Deciding to focus his annoyance at Kakashi and the book he was reading, Naruto drew out his sword and quickly fell into a Kasegiri sword stance that Kensei too taught him. Kakashi-sensei, you should remember that if there is one thing I can't stand, it's perverts, said Naruto, shouting out the last parts, and charged at Kakashi. When Kakashi saw Naruto draw out his katana from his back, he raised his one visible eyebrow, which grew when Naruto charged at him with impressive speed that could easily rival Chunin speed. Quickly Kakashi had been able to dodge several of Naruto's sword slashes, but just barely. Quickly realizing that he could not fend off Naruto like this, Kakashi quickly put away his book and took out a kunai and used it to block Naruto's sword strikes and slashes. For the next few minutes Naruto and Kakashi traded blows with one another, where Kakashi had to admit that Naruto's kenjutsu skills were just as impressive as his taijutsu, as he was very deadly with a katana. But as impressed as Kakashi was with Naruto, he was utterly flabbergasted with Naruto when he started to channel chakra into his katana, increasing the length and density along with the sharpness of the blade. He then cut through Kakashi's kunai and nearly cut him in two, where thanks to some quick reaction he replaced himself with a log. The Hien no Jutsu, flying swallow technique, that mean he must have a wind nature affinity. Though Kakashi in complete shock of Naruto's skill level, when he reappeared a few away from Naruto. Kakashi was even more surprised that Naruto had a nature affinity that rare, as very few had it outside of Suna and Kaze no Kuni, Wind Country, and even fewer have it in Konoha and Hai no Kuni, Fire Country. How on earth can he do an advanced chakra flow technique like that? It takes years for any shinobi to do something like that. Taking advantage of Kakashi's shock, Naruto attacked Kakashi with his now chakra-enhanced katana. Kakashi was able to narrowly dodge the chakra-enhanced sword slashes in time, but just barely, as he got several cuts on his clothing and on his body. After a minute or so of this, Naruto decided to show Kakashi what he really was capable of with his sword. He then began to flow wind chakra into his katana and swung it in a horizontal slash and cried out Surashifu, wind slash, where he created a crescent-shaped blade of wind. The blade of wind flew at Kakashi with such frightening speed that Kakashi just managed to avoid the deadly technique, although it did manage to cut his mask slightly as a cut appeared on his mask and the left side of his cheek started to bleed slightly. But what was most shocking to Kakashi was that the blade of wind continued on past him and had cleanly cut right through two trees that were behind him. Where on earth did he learn a technique like that? Shouted Kakashi in his mind, as he knew that Jiraiya nor Tsunade could not have taught Naruto that, as neither of them had an affinity to wind, as the jutsu was clearly a wind jutsu. Sasuke and Sakura, who had been watching this, were equally as stunned and shocked as Kakashi, if not more. How the hell did he do that? Cried Sakura in her mind, how the hell should I know? Cha! Answered back inner Sakura, who was just as shocked as other self. What kind of jutsu was that? Thought Sasuke with outrage at the fact that Naruto could do such a powerful technique, one that he had never seen before and was clearly more powerful than any jutsu he knew, considering how fast it was and how it easily cut through those two trees. As if reading everyone's mind, Naruto decided to speak up. You're probably wondering right now, what was that technique that I just used? He asked, where he got a slight nod from Kakashi. Well, as you have no doubt guessed the jutsu, I used to be a wind jutsu, one that I created myself, shocking Kakashi and the observing Sasuke and Sakura. Why, you created the jutsu yourself? Spoke Kakashi with clear shock and amazement, as the jutsu was clearly an A-rank level wind jutsu, and for a newly made genin like Naruto to create that himself was nothing short of astonishing, not to mention he had the chakra levels to do something of that level. Yes, the jutsu involves me channeling a concentrated amount of wind chakra into the tip of my blade and firing it with pinpoint timing in the shape of a crescent moon or in the shape of a wave as I swing my sword, explained Naruto by telling him very basic of the technique. Incredible! Thought Kakashi, as he knew the amount of control something like that would take. Since for someone to do that, it would take precise chakra control. Since if they did not have precise control over their chakra, then they would put too much chakra into the sword and overload it, as it would blow up right into the user's face. It seems that Naruto has inherited his mother's natural precise chakra control, though Kakashi. Quickly Naruto swung his katana again and fired another Surashifu at Kakashi, who quickly replaced himself with yet another wooden log. Naruto quickly spun around with his katana and channeled more wind chakra into it. Whereas he spun around, he used the wind chakra he had channeled into his katana to raise up the dirt from the ground to make a dust cloud to give himself cover from any attacks that Kakashi might make, which came from a nearby bush as Kakashi fired several kunai at the dust cloud, Naruto quickly jumped out of the dust cloud and fired yet another Surashifu at where the kunai came from. The attack cut the bush in half, but all it revealed was that Kakashi was gone. When Naruto landed, Kakashi suddenly appeared behind Naruto in a crouch position, and his hands forming a tiger seal. Second rule in being a shinobi Naruto: never let your enemy get behind you, said Kakashi. Where he then cried out Kanehagakur Hiden Taijutsu Oji, Senin Goroshi, Kanehagakur's most secret and sacred technique, 1,000 years of death, and inserted his one index and middle fingers into the Naruto's rectum. But when Kakashi did this, Naruto exploded, causing a massive explosion. Fortunately though for Kakashi, he was able to evade the blast, although he was still a bit singed. Damn it, he knows Bunshin Daibakoha, clone great explosion. What the hell has Jiraiya-sama and Tsunade-sama been teaching this kid, said Kakashi to himself as he jumped out of the smoke from the explosion. Unfortunately, when he did, the real Naruto had been waiting for him to do so, where he then came out of the tree line and was about to cut Kakashi in two. Kakashi although saw this and quickly spun around and came up beside Naruto and grabbed his wrist and twisted it enough to force Naruto to drop his katana and then threw him away into the middle of the clearing. Naruto quickly landed on his feet where he then did a few hand seals, after which his hands were covered his chakra. Both Sasuke and Sakura looked on in confusion, while Kakashi began to curse himself for being so stupid, as he quickly recognized the jutsu that Naruto was using. Shit, I should have known that he would have some knowledge in medical ninjutsu, considering that Tsunade-sama is his mother, though Kakashi. As he knew how dangerous the Chakra no Mezu, chakra scalpel, could be when used by a highly trained medic, he only hoped that Naruto wasn't able to use them as well as certain medic nins could. Unfortunately for Kakashi, Naruto was indeed highly gifted when it came to using Chakra no Mezu in a fight. He was even more skilled than his mother was in them when she was his age, where during their spar Naruto was often able to use them quite effectively against his mother. Quickly engaging Kakashi in close combat, Naruto was able to use his naturally speed and agility to great effect by moving around quickly and attacking Kakashi around different angles. Unfortunately, though the silver-haired Jonin wasn't a highly skilled and seasoned Jonin for nothing, where he was able to avoid or dodged most of Naruto's attacks with his Chakra no Mezu. But still Naruto was still able to get a few hits on Kakashi, where he was able to cut some of Kakashi's muscle tissues and tendons on his legs and arms, which slowed the Jonin down a bit as he struggled a bit to get his arms and legs to move in time to dodge more of Naruto's attacks. After a few more minutes of fighting like this, Kakashi quickly dropped a few smoke bombs, where Naruto quickly jumped away so that Kakashi couldn't sneak up on him in the smoke. Soon enough the smoke dissipated and Kakashi was gone. Naruto quickly went on alert as he knew Kakashi could sneak up on him any second. Quickly looking around left, right, in front of him, behind and above, Naruto could still see no sign of Kakashi, and could not sense him anywhere nearby. With no luck at finding Kakashi, Naruto decided to use another technique he had created, called Chakra no Purosu, Chakra Pulse. The technique worked like acoustic location or sonar, where instead of using sound to determine the distance and direction of something, Naruto would use chakra. By placing his front two fingers on the ground, Naruto would send a large, but concentrated burst of chakra out from his finger like a shock wave through the ground, which would spread out to about 500 meters from where he was. There the chakra shock wave would create a sort of chakra echo with anything that it hit and had chakra, thereby allowing Naruto to determine the exact location of the person in question. The technique also allowed Naruto to determine the amount of chakra the person had, hence allowing him to know how strong his opponent was. The technique of course could only be used by someone with large amount of chakra, and had to have precise control over their chakra, and have pinpoint timing. Also, as well, the technique could only work in finding a person when the person in question was either on the ground or was on something that was on the ground like a tree of a building. But if the person was in the air, then the technique would be unable to locate said person. Naruto had come up with the technique when he read about how bats used sonar to find their way around things, from a book about animals. After which he thought about how he could use the same kind of method with chakra instead of sound. After deactivating his Chakra no Mezu, and then used his Chakra no Purosu to find Kakashi, within a second or two of using the technique Naruto found Kakashi's location. He found that Kakashi was hiding about 10 feet away from him underground. After locating Kakashi, Naruto decided that it was time to take off the kid's gloves and go all out on Kakashi if he wanted to get the bells in time, as he knew that time was almost up. Begin Haimataro Tushar soundtrack. He then quickly channeled an immense amount of chakra inside his body, and a moment later gathered it into his fist, where Naruto then slammed his fist into the ground and cried out Chikakohendo, Earthshaker Impact, and released the chakra into the ground, where thanks to his superhuman strength, Naruto pulverized the ground around him into miniature pieces by the excess shock of his attack, which then raised the ground up all around him and scattered all the earth pieces around the clearing, completely destroying the clearing and the training area. This of course revealed a now wide-eyed and stunned Kakashi out of the ground, where he had been hiding. Upon seeing Kakashi, Naruto smirked at the now wide-eyed and stunned silvered-haired Jonin, and then spoke. Kakashi-sensei, I found you, said Naruto, as he continued to smirk deviously. It was then that Kakashi realized where he had seen that devious smirk before. It was the same devious smirk his mother would have when she was about to lay a major beat down on someone, mainly Jiraiya. He destroyed the entire training ground, with a single punch to the ground. What insane strength, thought a stunned and shocked Kakashi in his mind before regained himself. He definitely his mother's son, and she has clearly been teaching him more than just medical ninjutsu. Kakashi wasn't the only person to be utterly blown away at what Naruto had just done, as both Sakura and Sasuke could still not believe what they just saw Naruto do. How the hell did he do that? He can't be human. Though Sakura, who cares, just don't piss him off, as he could kill us both, spoke inner Sakura, where for once Sakura was in full agreement with her other self. Such incredible strength and power. Is this the kind of power one gets from training under members of the Sannin? Thought Sasuke with shock and anger, as it was oblivious from just this alone that Naruto was far above him in not only strength, but in power. For the next few minutes Naruto and Kakashi just stood in front of each other and stared at one another. Crap, I have to be even more careful around this kid, because if I'm not he could actually kill me and bury me with one hit alone, muttered Kakashi to himself. He then quickly jumped out of the now ruined training ground and into the tree line so to have some cover. End Haimataro Tushar soundtrack. Naruto quickly followed after Kakashi and started to attack him, where he tried to get close enough to land a hit on Kakashi. Unfortunately though, Kakashi was not about to let Naruto get that one hit, as he continued to jump around and dodge all of Naruto's kicks, punches, knee kicks and elbow strikes. For the next few minutes Naruto and Kakashi continued their game of cat and mouse, where Naruto chased after Kakashi and tried to hit him, but each time Kakashi would avoid each attack, where Naruto would either hit the ground or just a tree and destroy it. As Kakashi was dodging another series of Naruto attacks, he cursed his rotten luck that he had to get a male version of Tsunade on his Jinin team. He also wondered if this was somehow Kami's payback for reading Ika Ika. At the same time, he was even cursing himself for telling Naruto come at him with the intention to kill, which he was clearly doing so, as Naruto might have actually killed him more than once in the past few minutes. As he continues to dodge, Kakashi suddenly found himself backed up against a tree, with Naruto charging at him with another super-powered punch. Quickly Kakashi spun around the tree to avoid Naruto's punch, where instead of hitting Kakashi, Naruto hit the tree, where he blew apart a large piece of the trunk and caused the tree to fall down. Whoa. Whoa. That was close, thought Kakashi when he saw the tree fall down, where he then quickly jumped away to avoid another one of Naruto's supercharged kicks, where Naruto destroyed yet another tree when he hit it instead of Kakashi. Well, Naruto, I have to admit your strength is impressive, but it's still no good if you're not fast enough to land a hit on me, spoke Kakashi from high tree branch near Naruto. We see about that, said Naruto as he formed a hand seal and cried out Kage Bunshin no Jutsu, and created 4 shadow clones of himself, and had them attack Kakashi. Shit! Cursed Kakashi as he saw the shadows clones come at him as he dodged their attacks, as they were able to use Naruto's superhuman strength as well. After dodging another attack from one of the clones, Kakashi quickly jumped into the air and threw several shurikens at once and hit the clones with pinpoint precision, causing them to disappear. Unfortunately, the clones were just another distraction for Kakashi, so to allow Naruto to come behind him, where Naruto then appeared in midair right above Kakashi and did a falling axe kick and cried out Reshuken, Fisher kick fist. Luckily for Kakashi, he saw Naruto appear right before attack hit him, and was able to do a midair spin to avoid being hit by Naruto's Reshuken. When Kakashi avoided Naruto's Reshuken, Naruto fell right past him, where his kick hit the ground and caused a large fissure in the ground, making Kakashi glad that he had avoided being hit by that attack when he landed nearby. Unfortunately, Kakashi was not able to ponder for long on how lucky he was, as Naruto quickly got back on his feet and charged forward at him with a straightforward punch and hit Kakashi right in the gut, although when he did hit Kakashi he exploded into a puff of smoke. Damn it, he got away again. He used a replacement jutsu and replaced himself with a shadow clone he had created, thought Naruto, where he then used his Chakura no Purusa to find Kakashi again. With Kakashi. Man, I never thought I'd have this hard a time with Naruto, let alone any of the others in this test, muttered Kakashi to himself, as he hid behind a tree trunk on a thick tree branch so to give him to catch his breath. But as Kakashi was catching his breath, his shinobi senses were telling him that there was something amiss. Stretching out his senses to find anything out of the usual, he suddenly felt a change in his chakra and quickly realized that he was under a genjutsu. Quickly he used a genjutsu kai, genjutsu release, to break out of the genjutsu. When he did this, the genjutsu faded, revealing it to be a Magen, Kokoni Erasa no Jutsu, demonic illusion, false surroundings technique. As Kakashi found himself on the ground below the tree that he thought he was on instead of being on one of its branches. Not bad, Naruto, but still not good enough to fool me, spoke Kakashi out loud as he got ready for any attack that Naruto would make next. But what happened next, he did not expect to happen, as a tree suddenly sprung out of the ground and coiled itself around Kakashi and wrapping up his hands, arms and legs, completely robbing him of his mobility. How this then, Sensei? Asked Naruto as he came out of the tree that was wrapped around Kakashi and ready to strike Kakashi in the neck with the kunai he had in hand. Shit. He used a Magen, Niju Kokoni Erasa no Jutsu, demonic illusion, double false surroundings technique, to trick me, as the Magen, Kokoni Erasa no Jutsu was just to distract me, so that I would not sense the Magen, Jabaka Satsu, demonic illusion, tree binding death, when he used it on me until it was too late. Damn it, I didn't think he'd be this skilled in genjutsu. I got stop underestimating this kid, thought Kakashi, as he cursed himself for being underestimating Naruto again. Quickly before Naruto could strike, Kakashi bit his lip to cause enough pain to get out of the genjutsu. Once Kakashi was out of the genjutsu, he quickly jumped into the air to dodge several shurikens thrown by Naruto. As he was in midair, Kakashi quickly caught several of the shurikens that Naruto had thrown at him. When he landed, he then threw them at Naruto and hit him in the chest. But as they did, Naruto exploded into a puff of smoke, revealing that he was a shadow clone. When Kakashi discovered this, he suddenly found himself unable to move. As he looked around with his eyes, he suddenly saw several seals craved on the trees around him. Kakashi quickly realized that the seals were for Kekai Kodai Fuin, for corner immobilization seal, a Chunin level Fuin jutsu, that involved placing specific seals in specific spots around an opponent, where once activated, the opponent and anyone else in the middle of the area between the seals would be unable to move. Shit. The genjutsu attack was just another diversion, so to keep me distracted long enough for him to place the seals on the trees, and to make sure I wouldn't notice them until it was too late. I fell right into his trap. He's definitely got good tactical skills, thought Kakashi, as he then began to try and think of a way to get out of this mess before Naruto took the bells off him. Well, Kakashi-sensei, I believe that we're nearing the end of this fight, as I have you now, and you can't escape, and it's my move, said Naruto as he appeared in front of Kakashi. I wouldn't be too confident if I were you, Naruto, said Kakashi rather calmly. Perhaps, but I do think that this fight is mine, and I'm going to finish this now, stated Naruto as he then began to do a few hand seals. Kakashi's eye quickly widened in surprise as he recognized that jutsu was a water jutsu. He has an affinity to water as well, thought Kakashi in disbelief at the fact that mere genin, even one like Naruto, having not one but two natural nature affinities. As Kakashi was thinking this, Naruto then cried out Suiton, Mizurappa, water style, violent water wave, and shot out a gush of water from his mouth and like a waterfall and washed Kakashi away, until he collides with a tree several feet away. Although when the water went down a bit Naruto saw a wooden log, where he thought Kakashi was. Damn it, I thought sure I had him. He must have replaced himself at the very moment that my attack washed away the first two seals. That takes some serious skill as he only had a second or two, but I should have expected that since this guy didn't become a living legend for being sloppy, thought Naruto. Where the moment he had finished thinking this Kakashi appeared right beside him, and hit him in the back of the neck knocking him out. Sorry Naruto, but I won this round, said Kakashi as he saw Naruto fall to the ground, but to his surprise as soon as Naruto hit the ground he puffed out of existence revealing him to be yet another shadow clone. Damn it, another shadow clone, how many does he have? He must have replaced himself with the shadow clone as soon as I came up behind him. Crap. How much chakra does this kid have, as most Genin would have collapsed and be unconscious from chakra exhaustion long by now. Especially when you consider the number of different justas he used, their levels, and how many times he has used them in this fight. Not to mention how long he has been fighting against me, though Kakashi as he looked around for any sign of Naruto. It was in that moment that Kakashi then saw Naruto appear 30 feet away from him, and then a few hand seals before crying out Doton, Retsudo Tensho, Earth Style, tearing Earth turning palm, where the ground around Kakashi spiraled inwards on itself, and was about to bury him alive. Fortunately for Kakashi, he had been able to jump into the air in time to avoid being crushed or buried alive by the earth. As he flew in the air Kakashi was once again surprised by Naruto's abilities. He has 3 nature affinities. He though in surprise. Once Kakashi landed on the ground he suddenly felt as something stabs him in the leg. When Kakashi looked down he saw several Senbon needles stabbed into his leg and saw a pair of hands holding onto his legs. He then realized that Naruto must have sent a clone underground and used the Doton, Mogiragakur no Jutsu, Earth Release, hiding like a mole technique, to travel underground. Before Kakashi could even try and get out of the grip he suddenly started to feel weak and was finding it had to focus his chakra. It was then that Kakashi realized that the Senbon needles were covered in poison. It was also then that 2 more shadow clones appeared out of the bushes on either side of Kakashi, where they then quickly grabbed onto Kakashi's arms and held him in place and keep him from doing any hand seals. It's time to end this fight once and for all Kakashi-sensei as I need those bells, now. Spoke Naruto where he then quickly made 2 shadow clones, and then did several dozen hand seals with impressive speed. As Naruto was doing the seals Kakashi quickly recognized them as ones used for another water jutsu, one more powerful than the one Naruto used earlier. Kakashi tried to get out of the clone's grip, but they were too strong, and he was too weak thanks to the poison Senbon needles. Naruto quickly finished the hand seals, and then cried out Suiton, Soryu no Jutsu, water style, water dragon bullet technique, after which the moisture came out of the surrounding grass and leaves, leaving them shriveled and dried up, as well as coming out from the air around him and formed into a giant, powerful water dragon. At the same time one of the clones started to channel its lightning affinity into the water dragon, while the other channeled its wind affinity into it. The second clone's wind affinity increased water dragon speed and power greatly, while the lightning affinity from the other clone covered the water dragon and increased its attacking power. With these 2 other affinities combined with the water dragon Naruto then cried out Mizufu, Kanbo Rakurai, Psycho no Suryuden Danaki, water, wind, lightning combo, supreme electric water dragon. Where the massive lightning and wind-empowered water dragon charged forward at Kakashi with incredible speed. Kakashi could only watch as the massive lightning and wind-empowered water dragon charged at him with incredible speed as he was too weak from the poison and too shocked to try and move, due to the fact that Naruto showed skill far beyond the average shinobi. As he had created this massive water dragon, out of just the surrounding moisture alone. As well as combined it with 2 other affinities to make it stronger, not to mention the most shocking part being that Naruto showed he had 4 naturally nature affinities. Within seconds the massive attack collided with Kakashi and the shadow clones, where the shadow clones puffed out of existence. while Kakashi was sent streaming down through the ground and through several dozen trees with such tremendous power that the water attack hollowed out the ground and tore the trees apart when it hit them. By the time the attack ended, Kakashi was washed up with his back against a single large tree that he had slammed against, which had somehow withstood the remnants of the attack. Once the attack ended, Kakashi opened his eyes groggily as his body was reeked with pain from the massive force and power of the lightning and wind-empowered water dragon, although he couldn't feel the pain, as his body was numb from the lightning that had ran through his body from the electrified water of the attack. Kakashi looked around to see where Naruto was, but saw him nowhere in sight. Deciding to look a gift horse in the mouth, Kakashi decided to try and escape before Naruto came to finish him off. But before he could even manage an attempt to try and flee, he suddenly heard Naruto cry out from some unknown location, Mokushiku would release wooden tentacles. After which dozens of wooden tentacles from the tree behind him came out of the ground and from the tree itself, where they started to wrap around his body and restrained him. Impossible, he can use Mokuton as well. What the hell can't this kid do? Thought Kakashi in stunned disbelief once again. Once Kakashi was properly restrained, Naruto then came out from the tree he was hiding behind, panting a bit heavily and sweating. The fight altogether had taken a lot out of him, and he doubted that he could have gone on much longer, as he was pretty much tried and was nearly out of chakra. He also knew that he was very lucky, as he knew if Kakashi hadn't underestimated so much, and if he had known what Naruto was capable of, or at least had known some of his abilities, he would have lost to Kakashi without question. Naruto then used his Mokuton bloodline to have a wooden tentacle take the two bells from Kakashi's side and bring them to him. After which Naruto then held out the bells in front on the now subdued Kakashi. "Looks like I passed the test, Kakashi-sensei, as I got both the bells," said Naruto to the now defeated Kakashi. Where as soon as he said this, the bell of the alarm clock rang out, to tell them that time was up, and it seems just in the nick of time. At this Kakashi could only sigh in defeat and hang his head in shame. He beat me fair and square, and once the other Jonins hear of this, they're never going to let me live it down. As Kakashi dwelled over his defeat at Naruto's hands, Naruto turned to his far left and then cried out, "You two can come out now, I know you both been watching us from the start." Seeing as they were already found out, both Sakura and Sasuke came out from their hiding spots behind some tree. "I can't believe it. He actually beat Kakashi-sensei. Not even Sasuke-kun could do that, and he has Mokuton, but how can that be? Even if he's the Shodaime Hokage descendant," Irika-sensei said that no one other than the Shodaime Hokage himself was ever able to do that. Not only that, he was able to create that massive water dragon in the middle of the forest, without being near a lake or river. Just like what Iruka-sensei said the Nidaime Hokage could do. Though Sakura in disbelief, he's strong, thought inner Sakura inside Sakura's mind. Which Sakura could only nodded in agreement with her inner self, as she still found it hard to believe that Naruto was this strong, and that he had defeated Kakashi in probably one of the most spectacular battles she had ever witnessed in her young life. "So, this is your true power," Senju thought Sasuke angrily with narrowed eyes as he stared at Naruto with some jealousy, as he realized just how strong Naruto really was, and also realized that if he fought Naruto now at his currently level of skill, Naruto would wipe the floor with him with no problem. This of course did not sit well with Sasuke, as his pride as an Uchiha and his need for revenge against his brother would not stand for it. Since it showed how inferior he was to Naruto, and if there was one thing Sasuke could not stand, it was being inferior to someone else his own age, as it showed that he was weak, and he hated feeling weak. Once Sasuke and Sakura had come out of their hiding spots, Naruto then had the wooden tentacles retract back into the tree, and let go of Kakashi. Once they did, Naruto then took out a vial out of his pouch, then took out a small pill, and handed it to Kakashi. "Here, sensei, take this, it will get rid of the effects of the poison," said Naruto as he handed Kakashi the pill. Kakashi took it and lifted up his mask slightly so not to show his face, and then swallowed the pill. Once Kakashi took the pill, Naruto then knelt down next to Kakashi and used Shozen Jutsu, mystical palm technique, to heal Kakashi wounds and recovered from Naruto's attack. As Naruto was healing him, Kakashi could not help but stare at him in wonder, as Naruto was clearly one of the most talented shinobis he had ever met in his life. He had already shown skill levels far above people his own age, not to mention he possessed an ability he had thought only existed with the Shodaime Hokage and in one other person, Mokutan. Not to mention as well he could use his mother's superhuman strength, and had the Nidaime Hokage's high water affinity. Although clearly Naruto had not mastered it to his ancestors' level yet, he still could do so in a few more years with enough training and practice, and the same could be said for his superhuman strength in terms of his mother. You're a true heir to the Senju clan, Naruto, and probably the most surprising ninja I have ever come across, thought Kakashi with a slight smile behind his mask. After a few minutes Kakashi was fully healed. Kakashi then stood up and began to stretch his arms around, getting the feeling fully back in them. Once that was done, he then led the genin back to the memorial stone, after which he then turned to look at Naruto. Well Naruto, as much I hate to admit it, but you beat me fair and square as you got bells off me. But since you have an extra one, I let you give your extra bell to one of your teammates if you want to. So which one will it be? Asked Kakashi as he waited to see if Naruto had truly figured out the test. For a moment or two Naruto did nothing and just stared at Sasuke and Sakura, who wondered which of them he would choose to pass with him. I will give them both my bells, said Naruto as he threw the 2 bells to the surprised Sasuke and Sakura, who each caught one. Are you sure about this, Naruto, because you know that, if you give them both your bells then they will pass, and you will fail and be sent back to the academy, said Kakashi in a neutral voice that showed no emotion. Yes, I'm sure, said Naruto with confidence, where he then turned back to his teammate. Although I don't like either of you much, you are still leaf shinobis and my comrades in arms, and even if I don't like you, I won't leave you behind and I will always have you back, even if it cost me my life, spoke Naruto without any hesitation, surprising both Sakura and Sasuke at his statement. After a moment or two of silence, Sasuke suddenly spoke up. I don't want your pity dope, so you can Kadash, said Sasuke, as he took Naruto's speech as a sign of pity, which was something he could not stand for either. But before he could finish what he was about to say and throw the bell at Naruto, Kakashi interrupted him. Well then Naruto, I have only one thing to say to that. As he held his hand out in neutral thumbs out, before he then turned it upwards to a thumbs up, you all pass. After which he did a U-shaped eye smile. But Kakashi-sensei, you said that we would have to have a bell to pass the test, and Naruto doesn't, so why do he pass with us? Asked a confused Sakura. Would you care to explain it to them, Naruto, as you clearly figured it out? Asked Kakashi, as he turned to Naruto, to which Naruto nodded. The test was never really about the getting the bells were just something to divide use and think only for ourselves and blind use to the true meaning of the test, said Naruto. Where, when he saw that neither Sasuke nor Sakura got what he was saying, he decided to go into more detail. You see, there was a secret behind the bell test. It did not matter if we got the bells, it only mattered if we worked together. Even if we believed that one of us would fail, just like on a shinobi mission where there is nearly always a chance that one of us would die on it. Kakashi-sensei had even hinted the meaning of the test, as he had said earlier that we each had a 33% chance of passing the test. Hence, if we each had a 33% chance of getting the bell by ourselves, then if we worked together, we would then have a 99% chance of getting the bells. That was what I was trying to tell you both when I rescued each of you, stated Naruto, matter-of-fact tone of voice, where both Sasuke and Sakura eyes widened in realization, while Kakashi just nodded his head, smiling behind his mask. Also, the test was about finding out if we were willing to sacrifice ourselves for each other on a mission, since if we believed that one of us would fail, and we still worked together and got the bells, then the test would also show if we would either fight over who got the bells once we got them, or if one or all of us were willing to sacrifice ourselves and willing fail the tests so that the others would pass. As it would in a way demonstrate that one of us or each one of us would willing sacrifice our lives to save the lives of the rest of the team on a mission. Hence that's why I passed along with you, since you both have a bell each to pass the test, and I showed the willingness to work with you, and the willingness to sacrifice myself to let you pass on. Had I given one of the bells to just one of you, and kept the other for myself, or keep them both to myself, then we would have all failed, finished Naruto. Further surprising Sasuke and Sakura at how he had managed to figure all this out by himself, Kakashi himself was also slightly surprised and impressed by Naruto figuring out the second meaning of the test as he had not when he did the same test with his former teammates. Whereas Sensei the Yondaime Hokage had to explain it all to them later on when they had passed the test. After a minute or so, once everything had sunk in, Sakura began to cheer out happily that they had passed. Naruto just dropped his shoulders tiredly as he was tried from fighting Kakashi. While Sasuke brooded, although still was slightly pleased that he had passed, and was now one step closer to killing his brother. Sakura cheering of course quickly ended, when Kakashi suddenly spoke in a serious tone, "I don't know why cheering Sakura. Since technically, you and Sasuke did not really pass, since the only one that really passed this test was Naruto." "But Sensei, you just said," spoke Sakura before being interrupted by Kakashi. "Oh, you did all pass, you needn't worry about that, but only because of Naruto giving you both the 2 bells, and was willing to sacrifice himself to let you both pass. Had he failed to get the bells off me in time, I can assure you that he would have just gone back to the academy, while you two would have been booted out of the ninja program altogether," shocking Sakura and causing Sasuke to scowl. As he was the only one that was willing to work as a team, but the both of you slapped away his offer of help and dismissed his advice without really listening to it, and only looked out for yourselves. You both failed to look underneath the underneath, where neither of you realized the true meaning the test. Both of you turned your back on your teammate, when you should have worked with him, and if there is one thing that is unacceptable in my book it is those who turn their backs on their comrades. For you see in the ninja world, those who break the rules are scum, but those who abandon their friends and comrades are worse than scum. That's probably the most important lesson I can ever teach you as your sensei, which is why I want you to take it to heart." Kakashi then turned and looked at the memorial stone. "You see this stone next to us? This stone is the memorial stone. It lists all of the shinobis of this village that were killed in action, and my teammates are on this stone along with my sensei the Yondaime Hokage, as they all died in combat. I come to this place every day, and every time I come here this place it makes me think about the mistakes I've made in the past, and I've made a lot. This is why I'm telling you to help and support one another and your other comrades, as you will need them when the time comes, and to avoid the mistakes that I have made in the past." When Kakashi finished, both Sasuke and Sakura had thoughtful looks on their faces as thought about what Kakashi just said to them. Naruto just remained silent throughout the event as both Jiraiya and his mother told him the same kind of thing, and took what they told him to heart just like Kakashi was trying to get Sakura and Sasuke to. After a minute or two of total silence, Kakashi spoke again in cheerful-like tone, "Okay then, now that's said, I can say that Team 7 is officially formed, and we will start our team training and missions in 3 days' time at 9 in the morning, so you have the rest of the day off." Surprised by Kakashi's sudden change of attitude, it took a minute or so for the genin to regain themselves. Sasuke then went humph and then started to walk away, muttering about how he needed to go home and train more. Sakura, being every loyal fangirl that she was, followed after Sasuke, asking him if he wanted to go out on date with her to celebrate them becoming a team. Sasuke of course responded with his usual response, no. Dejecting and depressing her, who although despite being rejected by her crush still continued to follow after him and try and persuade him to change his mind. Naruto went over to where Kakashi had caused him to drop his katana and went to get it. When he picked it up, he found Kakashi coming over to him. "Is there something the matter, Kakashi-sensei?" asked Naruto. "No, not really, Naruto, I just wanted to ask you something. I was just wondering, did you figure out the meaning of the test by yourself, or did you already know about it from your mother or Jiraiya-sama? As the bell test was used by the Sandaime when he taught your mother and Jiraiya-sama, Jiraiya-sama also used it on my sensei the Yondaime when he trained him and his teammates, where he then used it on my teammates and me?" asked Kakashi. At this Naruto smiled. "It was kind of both," answered Naruto, where Kakashi just raised an eyebrow to signal Naruto to continue with his explanation. "Ero Sennin and Kaa-chan already told me about it a while back, but I had forgotten about it until you started the test, after which I remembered what the test was about, since they had told me about the first meaning of the test, although I figured out the second part myself." That makes sense. Oh well, guess I should have known that your mother would have told you all about this test, and I should have tried something a little different," replied Kakashi with some amusement in his voice. "There is also one other thing I like to ask you about Naruto," said Kakashi, causing the young blonde to raise his eyebrow this time. "What was that technique you used to find me underground? Since just before you destroyed the training ground, I sensed a shock wave of chakra coming from you," asked Kakashi. At this Naruto smiled and explained the Chakura no Purosu, and how he came up with it. When he finished explanation, Kakashi had to applaud Naruto's ingenuity and creativity in creating such a technique at his age. Once the explanations were all done, Kakashi decided to leave and go make his report to the Hokage about his now newly formed team and his recommendation on what to do about Naruto. But before he could leave, Naruto suddenly called out, "Hey Kakashi-sensei, aren't you forgetting something?" At this, the copycat Nin raised an eyebrow in curiosity at what Naruto was talking about. "I don't think I am," said Kakashi. "Oh, so you won't miss this then," said Naruto as held up Kakashi's first edition copy of Ika Ika Paradise that he had gotten from Jiraiya. "How did you," said Kakashi in surprise as he suddenly felt for his book that he had put his pouch when he fought Naruto, but couldn't find it. At this Naruto smiled. "Well, back when I had my wooden tentacles take the bells off you, I also had them secretly take the book off you and give it to me." Kakashi chuckled nervously. "Good one, Naruto. Now, can I have it back, please?" At this the same devious smirk his mother was known for appeared on Naruto's face. "Sorry sensei, but like I said, if there one thing I hate it's perverts," said Naruto. Where he then threw the book into the air, and before Kakashi could even try and grab his precious porno book, Naruto quickly channeled his wind affinity into his swords, and in an impressive feat of swordsmanship Naruto cut the book into pieces, leaving it in nothing but shreds. After which Naruto waved goodbye to Kakashi and shunshined away, leaving a horrified frozen Kakashi with hands stretched out when he tried to catch the book, where all he could do was now watch in frozen horror as the shredded pieces of his once precious porno book slowly fall past his hands and onto the ground. 5 minutes later a large angry cry could be heard throughout Konoha Nnaruttoo, followed by a cry of despair and sorrow as a certain one-eyed copy Nin wept over the loss of his shredded porno book. Chapter 12 Sensei. In the Hokage office. Currently in his office the Hokage was debriefing his youngest son Asuma and recently made Jonin Yuhi Kurinai about their teams who had passed their team tests given to them by Asuma and Kurinai. Just as the Hokage had finished debriefing them and was about to dismiss them, Kakashi suddenly shunshined, body flickered, into the office. "Ah, Kakashi, I did not expect you arrive for a while longer. I'm guessing that you have finished testing your latest genin team," spoke the old Hokage, as he puffed his pipe. "Yes, Lord Hokage, I have," replied the copy Nin. "So Kakashi, did they pass, or did they fail like all the others?" asked Asuma as he was curious if this team did what none of the other teams that Kakashi had tested had done, pass his bell test. Asuma wasn't the only one that was curious, as Kurinai was equally curious as she knew that Naruto was on Kakashi team, and from what she saw of him, and what little Hinata told her about him, he seemed a nice enough young man. Hiruzen was also eager to find out if Naruto passed Kakashi test. He had originally planned to watch the test on his crystal ball. But unfortunately, a meeting with his advisors, Koharu, Hamura and Danzo took longer than expected, and then he had to deal with the greatest bane of his existence, paperwork. Where by the time he was done, he had to debrief all the Jonin senseis to see who passed and who failed. "Well, to put it simply, the team passed," replied Kakashi. Upon hearing this the Hokage smiled, Kurinai nodded and Asuma raised his eyebrow, as he hadn't been exactly sure if this team would pass or fail, although considering that it had the top Kunoichi, the Rookie of the Year and last Uchiha heir in Konoha, along with the Senju heir, who was Tsunade's son and the descendant of the Shodame and Naidame Hokages. The team had a better chance of passing than any of the other teams that had tried. Although he was happy that the kids passed, he was still slightly disappointed, as there had been a large betting pool with a large number of the shinobi populace about if the kids would be the team that passed the test. Many had bet that they would pass, considering who was on the team, while many others bet that they wouldn't, considering Kakashi's high standards and track record. Asuma himself had bet they would fail, hence he lost a tidy sum of money. So, the team passed your test, Kakashi, and figured out the hidden meaning of it, spoke Asuma, and he puffed out a smoke from his cig. Well, they didn't exactly, replied Kakashi. Ha! Said Asuma in slight confusion, and was joined by his father and Kurinai, as they were slightly confused as well. Well, to be correct, Naruto was the only one that really passed the test, while the other two failed, answered Kakashi. But how did they all pass when two of them failed? You're not making any sense, Kakashi, asked Kurinai. They all passed because Naruto figured out the meaning of the test, beat me and got the bells off me, and gave them the bells, said Kakashi. When Kakashi said this, all three people could not believe what they heard. Asuma dropped his cigarette, Kurinai was wide-eyed, and Hiruzen dropped his pipe. After a minute or so of silence, Kurinai spoke up, Kakashi, you can't be serious. You're telling us that Naruto, a newly made genin, defeated you, one of the strongest jonins in the village, in a fight. Yeah, Kakashi, you can't actually expect us to believe that? Asked Asuma in disbelief, as the very idea of it was ridiculous. Even if this kid is a Senju and is Tsunade-sama's son, it's impossible. Well, it's true, I'm afraid, although I do admit I underestimated him several times in the fight, and he already knew a lot about me, from what his mother and Jiraiya-sama told him about me. He also had me at a disadvantage as I knew none of his abilities and skills, hence I didn't know what he was fully capable of, until it was too late, where he then beat me. Perhaps you should explain exactly what happened during the test, Kakashi, spoke the Sandaime, as he was now very curious what exactly Naruto could do, as Jiraiya was supposed to show up yesterday and tell him about Naruto's abilities, but he did not show. The Hokage was a patient man, but after hearing his 12-year-old surrogate grandson, and newly made genin, beating Konoha's top jonin in a fight made him want to know exactly what Naruto was capable of and what his former students had been training him in. Kakashi of course agreed and began to tell them how he had explained the rules of the bell test to Naruto and the others, after which he then went on to explain how he beat Sakura by using Magen, Narakumi no Jutsu, demonic illusion, hell viewing technique. When Kurinai heard this, she frowned, since she had seen Sakura's grads and academy records, hence she should have easily got out of that weak-level genjutsu. This of course made her wonder what exactly the academy had been teaching these kids today, and wonder how far had the academy levels fallen, if the top kunoichi could not get out of a simple weak-level genjutsu. Kakashi explained how Naruto knew the first meaning of the test thanks to his mother and Jiraiya, where he then rescued Sakura, where he tried and failed to get her to work with him. Kakashi then went on to explain his battle with Sasuke, where the Hokage and the two other Jonin senseis were both surprised and impressed with how well Sasuke fared against Kakashi by himself. Not to mention how he knew and had mastered the Katan, Gokakyu no Jutsu, fire style, great fireball technique, AC rank level fire jutsu. Kakashi then told them how, like before with Sakura, Naruto rescued Sasuke and tried to get him to work with him, but failed again like with Sakura. But even despite hearing how Naruto had failed to get Sasuke to work with him, the Hokage, along with Asuma and Kurinai, had been impressed with how Naruto managed to trick Kakashi and escape, as it had shown that he had fully mastered of the basics, and could use them effectively in battle. Once he finished that explanation, Kakashi proceeded to explain his fight with Naruto. Both Sarutobi's and Kurinai was greatly surprised when they heard that Naruto had created his own taijutsu style. Even if it wasn't fully developed yet, it still showed that Naruto had a great deal of talent to do that at his age. They had been further impressed when they learned of Naruto's kenjutsu skill, but that quickly turned to shock when Kakashi told them that he had a wind affinity and had created his own A-level rank wind jutsu. Damn. The kid actually created a technique like that by himself, said Asuma, as he puffed out some smoke from a new cigarette, as he was clearly impressed with Naruto's skill level when Kakashi told them as to master his wind affinity to the point of being able to use Hien no Jutsu, flying swallow technique, by just teaching himself, at his age, and still create an A-rank jutsu as powerful as the one Kakashi described to them, told him that Naruto was far more talented than everyone thought. He also wondered at the same time if he could get Naruto to teach him that technique, as from what Kakashi told them of it, it could be very useful in a fight. Impossible, Kakashi, no child could create a technique like that by himself, replied Kurenai in disbelief, as she could not believe that Naruto created an A-rank level wind technique like that by himself. Well, it true, Kurenai, as he had no reason to lie, and I could tell he wasn't, not to mention there no way his mother or Jiraiya-sama could have taught him it, as neither of them have a wind affinity or are skilled in windjutsus, replied back Kakashi. The Hokage himself remained silent, as Kakashi and the other discussed Naruto abilities in windjutsu, as he was just as equally as shocked as his son and Kurenai, while at the same time proud of Naruto as a grandfather would be. You're truly are you father-son Naruto, as I would expect nothing less from a son of Minato, thought the old Hokage with a smile. Soon enough the discussing about Naruto's windjutsu abilities ended, and Kakashi went on to explain the rest of his fight with Naruto, where he explained how Naruto was able to use Bunshin Daibakoha, clone Great Explosion, which surprised the three people, as well as explain how Naruto was clearly skilled in medical ninjutsu, as he used Chakura no Mezu, Chakra Scalpel, effectively against Kakashi. This of course was of no great surprise to the three, since Naruto was the son of the greatest medic in the world, so it would be only natural that Tsunade would train her son in medical ninjutsu, and how to use some jutsus in a fight. But even still they were impressed with his skill in using Chakura no Mezu so effectively in a fight, as it would be tricky even for most skilled medics to do. But as impressed as they were with Naruto's medical skills, they were utterly stunned when they learned of Naruto's Chakura no Purosu, Chakra Pulse, technique. Naruto created a technique like that? Asked Sandaime in shock after Kakashi explained Naruto's Chakura no Purosu. The Kapinin just nodded, as he didn't blame the old Hokage for being shocked, nor could he blame Kurenai or Asuna, who were equally shocked. Damn, this kid gets more and more impressive by the minute, spoke Asuma, where Kurenai could only nod in agreement. Once Hirozen, Kurenai and Asuma had gotten over their shock of a genin creating a technique as advanced and as impressive as the Chakura no Purosu. Kakashi then asked if the Hokage could bring his crystal ball into the office from his viewing room, as what he was about to tell them next was best left to be shown. Curious, the Sandaime agreed and called his secretary and asked her to bring his crystal ball into his office, which she did, and then left. Once the Sandaime's secretary had left, Kakashi asked the Hokage to show them Training Ground 3, when he did, he along with Kurenai and Asuma were astounded to see that the entire training ground was completely destroyed. Where the ground was ruined with massive holes and cranks in ground, as well as both small and massive lumps of earth and rock all over the ground, it was like a small but powerful earthquake happened in the training ground. Kakashi, are you telling us that Naruto did all that by himself? Sighed the wide-eyed Kurenai, where Kakashi just nodded. Did he use some kind of earth jutsu or something? Asked Asuma. No, he did that all when he hit the ground with just his fist, replied Kakashi, where the old Hogue and the others' eyes widened more in shock. Kakashi, you can't mean that Naruto has? Asked the Sandaime, but before he could finish, Kakashi finished it for him. Yes, Naruto has Tsunade-sama's superhuman strength, although not at the level of his mother yet, but enough to rival it, and given time he could match it, and as you already must know, that if he can do this it also means that he has inherited his mother's natural flawless chakra control. When the three other people in the office heard this, they could believe it. The Sandaime was the first to get over his shock, where he sighed. Sigh. It figures that Tsunade would teach Naruto how to do her superhuman strength. I only hope that Naruto hasn't inherited her habit of causing collateral damage. He thought as he remembered the amount of damage Tsunade would do to the village when she lost her temper over some event or thing Jiraiya did when they were younger, after she created the technique. Not to mention the amount of paperwork it caused him, as the damage caused his paperwork to triple. Kakashi then continued on with his story, where he then went on to explain Naruto's Genjutsu skill, and how he used Magen, Niju Kokoni Erasa no Jutsu, demonic illusion, double false surroundings technique, and used a Magen, Jabaka Satsu, demonic illusion, tree binding death, to nearly defeat him. Kurenai was of course greatly impressed with Naruto's Genjutsu skill, as it took good knowledge and skill with Genjutsu to do something like that. Kurenai and the others were further impressed when Kakashi told them how Naruto tricked Kakashi and caught him in a Kekai Kodai Fuan for corner immobilization seal. As not everyone could trick and trap Kakashi, and it showed that Naruto had not only good tactical skills, but also good sealing skills, which wasn't surprising as Jiraiya had helped train Naruto. But they were utterly shocked again when Kakashi told them that Naruto had both water and earth affinities along with his wind affinity, revealing he had 3 natural nature affinities, something that was extremely rare to happen unless the person has some elemental bloodline. They were shocked even further when Kakashi told them that Naruto had the same kind of high affinity to water that his great-granduncle the Nidame Hokage had, although Naruto could not do it at the same level as the Nidame yet, but over time and training he could very well could. "Kakashi, are you certain of this?" spoke the elder Sarutobi, to which Kakashi just nodded. "My Kami, I never thought that Naruto could actually inherit Sensei's high water affinity, to be able to create a full water dragon from just the moisture of the air and surrounding plants and trees. Is nothing short of incredible," said Sarutobi, as he could also just image Koharu and Hamura reaction when they heard this. "They're more Hokage-sama," spoke Kakashi, which got everyone attention as many were going over what they had just learned. "It seems that young Naruto has actually 4 elemental affinities, not 3, shocking the other 3 people in the room." But before they could interrupt him, Kakashi continued on. "You see, when Naruto used the Suiton, Soryuden no Jutsu, water style, water dragon bullet technique on me, he also created 2 other clones, and had them focus his different element affinities for him to combine them with his water dragon. He combined his wind affinity to increase the water dragon's speed and power, while he had his other clone channel his lightning affinity to increase the water dragon's attacking power, making the jutsu greatly more powerful than it originally was." "Kakashi, are you saying that not only has Naruto 4 natural nature affinities, something that is about 1 in a million or more, but also successfully did an advanced level combination jutsu with a B-ranked level water jutsu?" asked Asuma in surprise. As the more he heard about this fight, the more Naruto sounded something like the second coming of the Yondaime Hokage. "Yes," replied Kakashi simple. Getting over his shock again, Sandaime sighed, as he didn't think that he could be any more astonished than he was right now, as Naruto had shown more skill than he ever thought possible. "Minato, my friend, you and Tsunade truly created a monster," he thought, as a small chuckle could not help but escape his lips, after which he turned back to Kakashi. "Kakashi, is there any other surprises you have left to tell us, Kakashi, because I don't think my old heart can take much more," spoke the old Hokage with a slight smile. "Just one, Hokage-sama. It seems that Naruto has Mokuton," said Kakashi. For a few moments the Hokage said nothing, after which he then spoke again calmly. "Could you say that again, Kakashi? I don't think I quite heard you right, as I thought you said that Naruto had Mokuton." "I did, as Naruto does indeed have the Mokuton power of his great-grandfather the Shodaime Hokage." "Wahat hat!" cried the Hokage as he spat out his pipe out again in complete and utter shock, while both Asuma and Kurinai were stupefied. Once the Hokage got over his shock, he looked Kakashi straight in the eye. "Kakashi, are you certain of this?" "Positive, Hokage-sama," replied Kakashi with complete seriousness, where he then explained the rest of what happened. Once Kakashi finished, the Hokage just fell back into his chair and muttered a single word: "Mokuton." "Naruto has Mokuton." Who could have believed that of all the members of the Senju clan to have lived, the Mokuton powers would re-emerge in Naruto, the Jinchuriki of the Kyubi no Yoko, though the Sandaime, as he realized what this meant for Naruto. "Truly, Naruto, you are the most surprising and unpredictable shinobi I have ever come across in my many years." "BB, but how is that possible?" spoke a still stunned Kurinai. Though Mokuton was not a bloodline, as only the Shodaime Hokage had it, and none of his descendants like Tsunade-sama had it. "I do not know, Kurinai, but I believe that former students Jiraiya and Tsunade know, as I can't believe that they would not know how Naruto has the Mokuton," answered the old Hokage, as he now realized why Naruto refused to tell him any of his abilities. No doubt Jiraiya wanted to tell and explain everything himself, for fear in case someone overheard Naruto telling him. But even still he wanted to know why he was not told sooner, as it was clear that Naruto had this ability for a while, considering how he was able to use Mokuton to capture Kakashi. "Naruto, you are a true Senju in every way," thought the elder Sarutobi, as he began to image the council reaction to Naruto having Mokuton, since if Naruto had it then there was a new possibility that Mokuton may finally become an official bloodline. Where there was a slight possibility that he could pass it to any children he may have in the future. Also, once the council heard this, then the members who had hoped to somehow arrange a marriage with Naruto will double if not triple their efforts to make it happen. As Mokuton was probably Konoha's most highly revered ability, even more so than the Sharingan, as it was with this power that the Shodaime Hokage was able to build Konoha and create the forest around it. Not to mention its abilities rivaled that of the Uchiha clan Sharingan, and it had the power to control and subdue the Bijus. Sarutobi would not be surprised if certain members of the council would demand that once Naruto was of marry age, he would marry someone who the council believed would bear strong children in the hope of producing more Mokuton wielders. He also could almost image Koharu, Danzo and Hamura's shocked looks when he informed them and the council, since he would have to. He also now understood how Jiraiya must have gotten Tsunade to agree to let Naruto become a Konoha shinobi, as he would need to come here to be trained in Mokuton, where Jiraiya must have told Tsunade what Orochimaru had done. After the shock wore off everyone, Kakashi finished with his story and told the others the remainder of what happened, and how Naruto had figured out the second meaning of the test by himself, which made the old Hokage proud, but still, he did not have the same effect on him as Naruto having the Mokuton. "Hokage-sama, what do you intend to do next?" asked Kurinai. "I will inform the council of this, as I have to tell them in matters such as this. Also I will have we speak to Jiraiya about the matter when he arrives, and we will go from there," replied the Sandaime. "Hokage-sama, if I may, I would like to make a suggestion," spoke Kakashi, where the Hokage nodded, telling him to go ahead. "I would like to suggest that Naruto be taken off my team." At this Asuma and Kurinai snapped their heads to Kakashi, and looked at him like he was crazy. They had done it so fast that both Kakashi and the Hokage wondered how their necks didn't snap off. "Kakashi, you can't be serious," said Kurinai in surprise. "Yeah, Kakashi, are you nuts?" asked Asuma. "I can assure you, Asuma, I'm quite sane." "Then why the hell would you want to take the kid off your team, especially one as talented as him? You basically just told us that the kid is more talented than any other genin that Konoha has had in years. You could even say he's the Senju clan's version of Itachi without the whole killing his clan thing. Not to mention you have Itachi little brother who you said is a prodigy as well, and you have the top kunoichi Hirono Sakura. Do you know how many Jonin senseis who would kill to be in your shoes? You probably have the best team that Konoha has had since the Sannin, and you want to get rid of the most talented one among them. Half the freaking Jonin senseis here were practically begging to be the kid's sensei only a few days ago, and that was before we knew all this," spoke Asuma. "The reason I'm doing it is because it is what is best for Naruto, as he needs a different sensei, one who can help him better than I can. Don't get me wrong, I would be more than happy to train Naruto, but I'm not the right sensei for him, as I can't teach him how to control his Mokuton abilities. I don't have much skill in Kenjutsu, and I don't have any Winjutsus. Not to mention I don't know any medical ninjutsu, and my genjutsu skills are limited. Besides, once Sasuke activates his Sharingan, I will have to focus a lot of my time on him, as I'm the only person that can train in using it. After which my remaining time would turn to Sakura and Naruto, which will not be enough for him as he needs help in things like Mokuton, and I believe you will agree with me, Hokage-sama, that there's someone far more qualified than me to help him in that," replied Kakashi, giving the Hokage a knowing look. The Hokage of course nodded in understanding, and was actually pleased that Kakashi suggested it, as he was about to suggest the very same thing that Kakashi just did, and he did not like the idea of having to order Kakashi to give up one of his students. "Then who the hell can teach the kid better than you, Kakashi?" asked Asuma, as he was not getting what Kakashi was talking about. "Then I believe that an introduction is in order," spoke the Sandaime, where he the spoke out fox. "Tiger, please reveal yourselves," after which two masked Anbu appeared. One was a woman with long red fiery hair that went down her rear, the other was a tall man with short brown hair. "You may both remove your masks," spoke the Sandaime, where both Anbu nodded, and took off their masks, revealing a young man in his mid-20s and young women in her mid-30s. "Yo! Tenzo, Kushina-senpai greeted Kakashi friendly-like with his tradition eye smile, where both smile and nodded. "Asuma, Kurinai allows me to introduce you to Captain Uzumaki Kushina," and Tenzo spoke the Sandame. Kurinai eyes widened recognizing Uzumaki Kushina, one of Konoha's top female shinobis, otherwise known as the Burati Shinka no Ikari, Bloody Crimson Fury, and also known in Konoha as Akai Chishio no Habanero, Red Hot-Blooded Habanero 1. "Tenzo, I believe you and Kushina heard everything, so I need not explain what I would like you to do," spoke the old Hokage. "Hi, Hokage-sama, and it would be my honor to teach Tsuwanda-sama's son and train him in his Mokuton powers." "Excuse me, Lord Hokage, but how is Tenzo here, going to teach the kid Mokuton?" As the only user other than the kid was the Shodame Hokage, asked Asuma in a neutral tone. At this reply, the Sandame could not help but feel slightly hurt, as ever since the death of his eldest son neither he nor his younger son had seen eye to eye much. They even had an argument when he joined the Shugenin Junichi, 12 Guardian Ninja, and ever since his return things have been strenuous at best, especially when they were alone. But quickly pushing that aside, the Hokage began to explain the events that lead to Tenzo have Mokuton. When Kurinai and Asuma heard the story, both were horrified. Kurinai felt like she was going to be sick, while Asuma felt disgusted at what his father's former student did, as it showed how far that man had fallen from grace. The others in the room who already knew the story did not blame Asuma or Kurinai for how they felt, for they felt the same when they first heard it first, or in Hiruzen's case saw what Orochimaru had done. "As you both now know, I will have Naruto placed under Tenzo care as his apprentice, so that he can teach Naruto Mokuton. Hence from now on Tenzo will go by Yamato and be Naruto's new sensei, where you will be given the rank of Jonin," spoke the Hokage. "Hi. I understand and accept, Hokage-sama," replied the now named Yamato. "Good, also you should know, Yamato, you will have to share apprenticeship with Jiraiya, as he has claimed Naruto as his apprentice, although I'm sure you will be willing to share it considering you will be teaching Naruto to use his Mokuton power. Also, as well, you should know that Kushina will be assisting part-time," spoke the Hokage before Kushina interrupted him. "Excuse me, Hokage-sama, but why I'm going to be assisting Yamato, as the boy has both Jiraiya and Tenzo training him, he doesn't need another," replied Kushina. Kushina, you are Konoha foremost Kenjutsu expert, and one of our best Fuinjutsu users, which is why I believe that Naruto will benefit greatly from your help in Kenjutsu and Fuinjutsu. But that in itself is only a cover, as I'm assigning you to act as Naruto's bodyguard at least for a while," said the Sandame before being interrupted again by Kushina. "You mean I'm babysitting him?" said annoyed Kushina. "Not exactly, Kushina, as Naruto has already shown he can handle himself in a fight, but yes, I do what to help protect him, when on mission as well as around Konoha. As you can guess, once news spreads of Naruto's existence, not to mention what he's capable of, many of our enemies and will come after Naruto, for he is the son of Tsunade, and the first natural-born Mokuton user since the Shodame Hokage, who could very well rebuild a new Senju clan filled with Mokuton users, something that many villages would love to have considering its abilities. Not only that, but I want you to help protect Naruto from threats inside the village itself, as there are already many groups in Konoha like the civilians in Danzo, who will want to use Naruto for their own means, and once they learn of what Naruto can do, they will want Naruto even more, so to manipulate and use him for their own use, and as you can already guess, when Naruto is older he will have enormous influence in the village. That is why I had Naruto placed in an apartment near your own so that you can keep an eye on him better," said the Hokage. Upon hearing this, Kushina nodded in understanding and accepted the Hokage's mission, where she was now a Jonin, but would keep her own name as she preferred not to use a code name. "Also, Kurinai, Asuma, I would like you to help Naruto part-time, and even mix him with your teams a bit, but when it best suits you, and will not interfere with your team's training," said the Sandame. "But Hokage-sama, why us? Surely Jiraiya-sama, Kushina-san, Yamato-san along with Tsunade-sama when she returns will be more than enough to help train young Naruto," spoke Kurinai. "The reason is because, due to the threat that Naruto will be under from our enemies, he will need to become as strong as he possibly can and quickly as he can, so to be able to defend himself. Also, since he will have no teammates, I think it best that he mix with others his own age, as he spent most of his life traveling with his mother, and has very few real friends his own age. So it will do him good to make new ones here where he can form bonds with them, and in the village. Not to mention as well, you Kurinai are one of our top genjutsu users, and Naruto needs a good genjutsu teacher, and you Asuma are one of only 2 wind users here. The other being Danzo, and I would like you to train Naruto further in Winjutsu, as Danzo may use that excuse to get close to Naruto, and to try and manipulate him, said the old Hokage. Both Jonins nodded in understanding and agreed that once they fully set up their teams, they would try work out a schedule to help train Naruto in their areas. Excuse me Hokage-sama, but what about the missing spot on Kakashi team, who will fill in Naruto's place on the team? Asked Kurinai, as with Naruto gone Team 7 was a member short. I have already thought of that. There was another student that was going to put on Team 7 that had not been in the academy, but I had him held back as Naruto was already sorted in Kakashi's team. But with Naruto gone to train under Yamato, the other student can take his place on Kakashi's team, replied the Hokage, who got a nod of agreement from Kakashi. Once that matter had been settled, the Hokage was about to adjourn this gathering, but before he could, a figure suddenly appeared in the office as it shunshined in. The figure was none other than Jiraiya. Hey Sensei, long time no see, sorry I'm late as my meeting with my contact took longer than I thought, so how did Naruto do? No wait. Don't tell me. Let me guess, he passed with flying colors, boy. I remember the time that I gave his dad and his team the bell test. Ah. That takes me back. Minato was the clever sort where he spoke Jiraiya excitedly, as he had been eager to find out what team Naruto was on, and how well he passed the team test for whatever team he was on. He had been so excited that he failed to notice the others in the room until it was too late. Jiraiya! Cried the Sandaime angrily, as Jiraiya had just blurted out something he shouldn't have in front of the other. When Jiraiya turned around and saw them, oops, I guess I came at a bad time. At the moment that Jiraiya basically said that Minato was Naruto's father, jaws hit the floor and eyes went to the size of saucer plates. SS Sensei HH had an S son, said wide-eyed and stupefied Kakashi. WW with Tsunade-sama, finished an equally stupefied Kurinai. Damn, was all Asuma could say. Sarutobi, I suggest that you give us some answers now, replied a very annoyed and slightly angry Kushina, as she wanted an explanation now. At this, Sarutobi could only sigh and glare at Jiraiya for being such baka, and was tempted to strangle him, where all Jiraiya could do was rub the back of his head and look embarrassed with a stupid grin. Sigh. Very well then, but what I about to tell you is a S-class secret where only Jiraiya, Tsunade, Naruto, Tsunade's student Shizun and myself know about, and if you tell anyone you will be charged with treason, spoke the elder Sarutobi seriously. At this, everyone stiffed at the seriousness of the Hokage's tone, as treasons was punishable with death. The Sandaime then went on to explain the events that lead to Naruto existing, which was something many of the other found hard to believe. So you're telling us that Minato-kun and Tsunade both got drunk together one night? Spoke Kushina. Where they then spent the night together, said Kurinai. After which, Tsunade-sama found out that she was pregnant with Naruto, and that Sensei was the father, said Kakashi. Where she decided to keep young Naruto, and give birth to him in the village, finished Yamato. That is correct, stated the Sandaime. Damn, no wonder the kid's so talented and powerful for his age, he basically has Kage blood flowing through his veins. With his mother being Konoha no Namakuji Tsunade Hime, Konoha's slug princess Tsunade, member of the Densetsu no Sannin, legendary 3 ninjas, and the world's strongest kunoichi, and a greatest medic. His father being Yondaime Hokage, Konoha no Kiroi Senko, Konoha's yellow flash, his great-grandfather being the Shodaime Hokage, and his great-granduncle being the Nidaime Hokage, spoke Asuma. As the revelation stuck, Kakashi could not help but be depressed. Naruto is Sensei's son. How could have I been so blind? He looks almost like a younger version of him with a few small differences. I had a chance chance to finally pay back Sensei for everything he did for me by training his son, but I threw it away, he thought sadly. Seeing the depressed look on Kakashi, Asuma decided to cheer him up. Hey Kakashi, don't worry about it, like you said, this Yamato guy would be a better teacher for him, besides you can still help train him better in his lightning affinity and other ninjutsu. This course cheered Kakashi up a bit, and he nodded his head in thanks to Asuma. Kakashi wasn't the only person to be slightly depressed at the news, as Kushina was slightly depressed as well. Minato-kun had a child, Tsunade of all people. I never though he went for older women, sigh. I still can't believe he got drunk and spelt with Tsunade all people, and I can't be angry because we had broken up already, and it had been my idea, but still. Sigh. I wonder what could have happened if we had stayed together, and if we could have had a child together, would Naruto have been our son? Oh. I wonder what Naruto is like. Though Kushina. As Kushina and Kakashi were getting over the slight depressing over what they did in the past, Jiraiya suddenly spoke up, remembering something that Asuma said. Wait. What do you mean by explaining how strong he was? Asked Jiraiya, where the Sandaime then gave Jiraiya a quick run-through of what they had been talking about before he arrived. Damn, spoke Jiraiya, I had hoped the brat would have waited a little longer before exposing what he could do, but I guess he had no choice when it came to passing or failing after those other two wouldn't work with him. Hokage-sama, although I can understand why you feel the need to keep young Naruto-san full heritage secret for now, so to prevent the large number of enemies that would come after him due to his heritage alone. I still do not understand why it is declared an S-class secret nor why it was kept from the ruling council, as when they eventually hear this there will be a great deal of trouble from them over not being told about it. At this Sarutobi looked at Jiraiya, who just said, you might as well tell them, Sensei, since they be helping the kid. Sigh. The reason why this is all ranked an S-level secret is because Naruto was born on the night of the Kyuubi attack. Whereas you all know, Minato knew that we could not defeat the Kyuubi, so he used a special jutsu that he created called the Shiki Fujin, dead demon consuming seal, and sacrificed himself to seal the Kyuubi into a child to stop the demon. But what you don't know is that child was Naruto, said the Hokage, shocking everyone, minus Jiraiya. The Yondaime actually sealed the demon into his own son? Asked Kurinai in shock as she doubted she could do such a thing herself in the Yondaime's place, knowing how Jinchurikis were usually treated. But why did the Yondaime not seal the demon into another child? Why did he choose his own son? Asked the Yamato. The Yondaime was far too noble a person to ask another family to make such a sacrifice when he could not himself, stated the Sandaime sadly. Both Kakashi and Kushina nodded in agreement with the Sandaime as they knew what the Yondaime was like. So, you can now see why Naruto was kept out of the village. His existence was kept secret along with the rest of his heritage. As for the reason why, I never told the council. If they learned that Naruto was the Jinchuriki of the Kyuubi no Yoko, nine-tailed demon fox, along with the rest of his heritage, they would have never have allowed Tsunade leave the village with Naruto. Where he would either be treated as an outcast for being a Jinchuriki, or spoilt rotten for his lineage by the village. Both of which were unacceptable to me, not to mention if the other villages found out about Naruto's existence, and being Tsunade's and Minato's son, they would stop at nothing to kidnap or kill Naruto. Also as well we would have to worry about inside forces like Danzo, since as the son of Minato, and the heir of the Senju clan, Naruto will have enormous political power. Not to mention he will have enormous control over Konoha's economy, as the heir to the Namikaze family, since 51% of the businesses in Konoha belong to the Namikaze family. Where if you combined all that with Naruto having the power of the Kyuubi as well the abilities that we now know he has then with Naruto, Danzo would then have more than enough power to take complete control of Konoha and rule it his way, which as you know would be disastrous for Konoha. Not to mention as well what the other villages would do if they found out the same thing about Naruto's abilities, and the Kyuubi, said the old Hokage. At this kind of reasoning the others could only nod about keeping things like that from the council, especially the fact that Naruto had both Mokuton and the strongest Biju alive inside him. Since if you combine the power of a Jinchuriki that contains the strongest of Bijus inside him, with the power of Mokuton which can suppress Bijus powers and control them, you get a force that could be virtually unstoppable once Naruto has mastered and can control both. Once that was explained, the Sandaime then turned to Jiraiya. Now Jiraiya, I would like to know when Naruto awakened his Mokotan bloodline and why neither you nor Tsunade informed of it. Asked the Sandaime. I'm sorry Sensei, Tsunade wanted to tell you, but I convinced her not to since I thought the fewer people know about this the better. As I feared there might be a chance that someone like Danzo could intercept the message or somehow learn about it if we told you. I knew that eventually Naruto would have to reveal his Mokotan bloodline. Where when he did you would have the excuse of not knowing, and you wouldn't have to deal with Danzo, or his supporters on the council, trying to usurp your position over how you didn't inform them about Naruto's abilities. As I figure they have already made several big issues about not being informed of Naruto's existence, said Jiraiya. Getting a nod of understand from the Sandaime, although he still did not like being kept out of the loop about his surrogate grandson for so long. And what about his high water affinity? He asked. That he only showed last year, where when I was training him, he instinctively did a Mizu Bunshin no Jutsu, water clone technique, in the middle of the forest by gathering the moisture from the grass and air. When I tested him on some other water jutsus that required a larger amounts of water, he was still able to do them without any problem or ill effect, replied Jiraiya. The Sandaime just nodded again in understanding. Is there anything else that we should know about Naruto, Jiraiya? Well, there is one other thing Sensei, although it isn't about Naruto it still does involve him, spoke Jiraiya, where the Sandaime signaled him to continue on. Currently there is a group called the Akatsuki. They're a small group that have been doing missions for cheap prices for both shinobi villages and countries and have been slowly gaining strength. The group is made up of 9 S-class missing means, spoke Jiraiya, shocking everyone in the room. Are you certain of this, Jiraiya? Asked the Tsunade, as he knew what kind of threat this Akatsuki would make to any major shinobi village if they were made up of 9 S-class missing mean. Yeah, I'm sure I even know 2 of its members, one being Orochimaru, and the other being that Itachi kid, although a while ago Orochimaru left the organization to go on his own after he betrayed the organization when he attacked another member, that member being Itachi. At this everyone grew concerned as Konoha's 2 most infamous missing means were members of this organization, and although thankfully Orochimaru was no longer a member, the fact that Itachi was still on it was cause from great concern. What about the others? And what are their plans? Asked the Sandaime. I don't know who the other members are, but as for their plan they want the Bijus, but for what don't know, stated Jiraiya, causing many worried looks to appear on people. But they don't know about Naruto having the Kyuubi, thankfully, although I'm sure they will find out about his Mokotan bloodline sooner or later, and once they do, they will come after Naruto for it, as his bloodline could greatly help them or even cause their plan to fail. For minutes the Sandaime thought over what he had heard, after which he then spoke. Jiraiya, although I know I don't need to ask you, I want you to go out and try and find everything you can about the Akatsuki, but before you do, I want you, Kakashi, Yamato and Kushina to come with me. As I will need to inform the council about Naruto abilities, and how he fared in Kakashi test, as they wanted to know what happened as soon as the test was over, due to Naruto and Sasuke being on it. Jiraiya nodded in understanding, although he wasn't looking forward to going to see the council, as he hated council meetings. Once that was settled, the Sandaime turned to Asuma and Kurinai. Although I'm sure you already know this, but you are both forbidden to mention anything that we have discussed in the room to anyone without my permission. Is that clear? Spoke the Sandaime in an authoritative tone that showed why he was the Hokage. Both of them nodded, where the Hokage then dismissed them, although as they were leaving Asuma made a joke about how the Yondaime not only outdid his sensei Jiraiya, but also lived every young man dream back then, get laid with Tsunade. This of course resulted in him getting a hard smack at the back of his head from Kurinai, and then be sent flying into the wall of the outside hallway by a punch from an angry Kushina, showing exactly why she was known as Akai Chishio no Habanero. Soon after, though, the Hokage left his office in a company of Jiraiya, Kakashi, Kushina and Yamato headed to the council room. 1 hour later in the council room. And that what happened, said Kakashi as he finished retelling what happened in the bell test to the council. Once he finishes telling them, he had expected much yelling or shouting about what they should do about Naruto. But surprisingly there was only silence, although the silence soon ended when a shocked Kohara spoke out. The boy possesses the Nidaime Hokage high water affinity. along with the Mokuton powers of the Shodan Hokage," said an equally shocked Hamura. "As well as 4 natural nature affinities," finished the ANBU commander stunned. Soon enough excited muttering erupted in the council room, where the different council members began to talk over Naruto's skill level amongst themselves. "Jiraiya-sama, do you know why the Mokuton powers of the Shodan Hokage as re-merge in young Naruto, when it did not with his mother, her brother, their father or any other Senju member?" asked Chibi, which got much muttering in agreement with other council members. "Yes, I do. Many years back when I was doing my studies Myobokuzen, I came across an ancient record written by a sage long ago, back when the great shinobi clans were only being founded. In the records it spoke about when the bloodlines were first showing up. It stated that the bloodlines were unstable in the first holders of them, and many of the children of bloodline holders did not receive their parents' bloodline. It was not until a few generations more after the first bloodline holders of each bloodline did the bloodlines finally stabilize, so that the other generations of the clans would have them, although only a few members in certain clans inherited their bloodline. This can explain how not everyone in a clan with a bloodline can receive and use their clan's bloodline, since it may have not stabilized in certain people in those later generations. The Uchiha clan and the Kagaya clan are prime examples of this, since only a quarter of the Uchiha clan members can use the Sharingan, while only a select few from the Kagaya clan possess the Shikatsumiyaku, dead bone pulse. Since it was only the ancestors of those members of those clans whose bloodline finally stabilize enough for it to be passed down to their children. Unlike the Hyuga clan where all its members were able to retain its bloodline, said Jiraiya, and then continued on. My theory is that Shodan Hokage was the first person to be born with the Mokuton bloodline, and like with the first bloodline users, the Mokuton bloodline was too unstable to be passed on to his descendants like Tsunade's father, Swanda's brother Nawaki and Tsunade herself. But it seems that the Mokuton bloodline finally stabilized with Naruto, hence why he's the one to have it, finished Jiraiya. When the council heard this many had to agree it did make sense, after which Choza spoke up. If that's true Jiraiya-sama, then is there a chance that young Naruto will be able to pass on Mokuton to any children he may have in the future, and it can become an official bloodline? This of course got eager looks from the council members as they were all wondering this now as well. I believe that the chances are very high if not very likely considering what Tsunade, and I have researched about bloodlines, replied Jiraiya simply as he already knew what many council members were thinking right now. They were thinking about encouraging their daughters, those that had daughters, who would be near enough around Naruto's age, to become friends with Naruto so to help lift their family status. For the next 20 minutes there was much arguing between the Hokage and many council members, as those council members were trying to convince the Hokage to sign off on arranging marriages between certain council members' daughters with Naruto, while other members tried to get the Hokage to sign off on getting Naruto to impregnate strong selected kunoichis who were not from any clans when he turned 16. So that he could rebuild the Senju clan and increase the chances of having strong children with his Mokuton bloodline. Unfortunately for them he would not sign off on either, as he stated that any arranges marriages between any families or clans with Naruto would have to be agreed upon by the head of the Senju clan, which was his mother Tsunade. While the other suggestion was put down immediately as Sarutobi would not have it, and even threatened those that suggested it, that if they ever brought it up again then he would inform Tsunade himself that they tried to turn her son into a breeding machine for his bloodline, upon her eventually return to Konoha. This of course had the desired effect, as said members gulped audibly at the thought of what Tsunade would do to them once she heard that. Once they realized this they quickly retracted their suggestion and remained silent. During this time 2 members of the council remained silent during the entire meeting. They were Hayashi and Danzo. Hayashi had remained silent, due to thinking over what he had just heard, and was wondering whether this would cause the Hyuga clan elders to accelerate their plans on Naruto to elevate the Hyuga clan's position higher, or would they have to change it due to his Mokuton bloodline. Danzo on the other hand had remained silent as he analyzed this new discovery. The boy's potential is clearly enormous, as he basically has all the gifts of his ancestors and much, much more. He has his mother flawless chakra control, along with her monstrous strength and medical talent. He also has the Shodame Hokage's Mokotan bloodline, where he can most likely pass it on to future generations along with the Nidame's Hokage's high water affinity. He has 4 natural nature affinities and could even quite possibly have Senju Toka talent for genjutsu considering how advanced he is already in it. Not to mention he most likely gifted in seals thanks to Jiraiya, as he was able to do a Chunin level Fuinjutsu, and is skilled in Kenjutsu and Taijutsu. Altogether with the right training the boy could become the greatest Hokage that has ever lived. Where he could finally push aside Sarutobi's foolish ideals like of peaceful coexistence and compromise, but not if his mother, Sarutobi and Jiraiya influence him into having the same beliefs, where he will be just as bad as them. I must find a way to get close to the boy and make him see the light, where he must be ruthless, cruel, cunning and never to compromise. So to ensure Konoha is strong, and its existence, and its own peace is maintained, though Danzo as he began to plan to think up ways to get close to Naruto. Once the discussions quietened down, Danzo decided to speak up. Hokage-san, if I may, I would like to make a suggestion. At this Sarutobi frowned as he had an educated guess as to what Danzo was about to suggest, but he still nodded his head and allowed Danzo to go ahead. Now as we can clearly guess with your ANBU agent Tenzo here, you no doubt plan to have him made a Jonin sensei, and Tsunade's son Naruto be made his apprentice, so to master his Mokotan bloodline, and perhaps help him in water and earth affinities. At this Sarutobi nodded as there was no need to hide it. He will also be no doubt trained by his mother in medical ninjutsu, and to further improve his superhuman strength, while Jiraiya here would train the boy in Fuinjutsu and perhaps ninjutsu, continued Danzo, while getting another nod from Sarutobi. This of course leaves several areas that he won't be trained in, such as Kenjutsu, his wind and lightning affinities, along with his Genjutsu skills. I believe I can help the boy in his first 2, as I've an affinity to wind and am skilled in Kenjutsu, and Kohara could help him with his Genjutsu. This of course gotten several murmurs of agreement as Danzo's skill as a shinobi were well known and he could help Naruto greatly in those areas. Kohara also nodded that she would offer her assistance as his Genjutsu skills are equally well known. Sarutobi of course expected something like this to happen as he knew Danzo planned to do something like this, so to try and get close to Naruto and manipulate him to what he wanted Naruto to do for him. He also beat that was also why he suggested Kohara to teach Naruto Genjutsu, as she shared many common beliefs that Danzo did, and could also use her to get to Naruto as well. That is a very generous offer, Danzo, but I'm afraid that I already have people picked to help Naruto in those areas, said Sarutobi with a barely seen smirk. At this Danzo narrowed his eye very slightly so that it was hard for anyone to tell that he did. And may I ask, who have you picked in those areas? He asked. I have chosen my son Asuma to train Naruto in improving his wind affinity from time to time, along with Yuhi Kurinai from time to time in Genjutsu. Kakashi has also volunteered to help Naruto improve his lightning affinity, and I have chosen Kushina, who will be assisting Tenzo, who will now be known as Yamato, where she will be training Naruto in Kenjutsu, Fuinjutsu when Jiraiya is away on missions, and helping Naruto in his water affinity, said Sarutobi as he smirked inside his mind. Although Kakashi is a fine choice in helping in the boy's lightning affinity, and Kushina-san is an equally fine choice in teaching him Kenjutsu and helping with his water affinity and Fuinjutsu, I believe that Kohara and I would be better choices in improving his Genjutsu skills and his wind affinity. Although both your son and Kurinai are highly skilled in their areas, both have their own genin teams, and it would interfere with their teaching with their own genin teams, where they will suffer for it. While Kohara and I are more flexible, and have more time to help the young boy, and have more experience and knowledge than they would in other than our official duties. We are on the reserve shinobi list, allowing for more training time in those areas, said Danzo. As he knew that he could not get close to Naruto through Kenjutsu now, as Kushina was a far better Kenjutsu user than he was, and he was no longer in his prime. Even if he was more skilled in Kenjutsu, or in his prime, he knew he could not win to train Naruto, as she could use her clan's strong ties with the Senju clan to persuade everyone to allow her to help train the boy. As the Uzumaki clan and the Senju clan were distant blood relatives and shared a common ancestor, not to mention the boy's great-grandmother was a member of the Uzumaki clan. Knowing this, he tried to get close to Naruto through training him in wind affinity and maybe genjutsu through Koharu. Many on the council, mainly the civilians, muttered in agreement with Danzo, as what he said was indeed true, but thankfully Sarutobi was prepared for something like this. Although that is true, both Asuma and Kurinai along with Kakashi have already agreed to help Naruto, where they will train Naruto at certain times, when they're training their own genin. This will also allow Naruto to form bonds with their genin students and become friends with them, as from traveling all around the continent with his mother, and having no one but her and her apprentice Shizune to be with. Naruto has very few friends his own age, and he would be further isolated from others his own age as Yamato's apprentice. Hence mixing him in with the other teams will allow Naruto to make friends his own age, and at the same time allow him to form a bond in the village. At this, most of the council now seemed to mutter in agreement in the Hokage reasoning, as the most important thing right now was for Naruto to form a bond in the village, so that he will more likely stay in the village and remain loyal to it. At this, Danzo knew he could not win and coincided defeat, as Koharu also seemed now to agree with Sarutobi's decision. As Sarutobi smiled at his victory over Danzo, he could see the near glare the old war hawk was giving him. "You won this round, Sarutobi. But this war is far from over. I will get the Senju boy," thought Danzo as the council meeting now ended. But before they all left, Sarutobi issued a new decree, which was that Naruto abilities were to remain hidden and only known to the people in this room from now on. So to prevent others from outside the village from finding out about Naruto's abilities, or at least for now, and wait until the time was right to reveal them. As if they revealed Naruto's skills and abilities too, so it could cause both Naruto and the village a lot of trouble in the near future, especially before Naruto can begin to get better use of his Mokuton bloodline. As other villages may try to kidnap Naruto, so they can use him, Sarutobi backed up this decree up, stating that if anyone spoke it to anyone else outside this room, he or she would be charged with endangering village security. This of course was punishable with spending 20 years in a maximum security cell with the worst of Konoha criminals. Sarutobi also told Kakashi that after the meeting was over, he was to go and tell both Sakura and Sasuke that they were forbidden to tell anyone of what they saw Naruto do. Where if they told anyone, or it is discovered they told anyone, they would have their ninja licenses revoked, their chakra sealed, and suffer the same punishment as anyone on the council that broke the Sandaim's degree. He even told that to make the especially clear to Sasuke, in case he believes that his status of the last of his clan protects him from such punishments. The civilians' council members of course argued about that to the Hokage, but the Sandaime would not budge on the matter, stating that if Sasuke would not obey the Hokage's orders like any true Konoha shinobi, then he did not deserve to be a shinobi of Konoha. Kakashi of course nodded in understanding and promised to make sure that both Sasuke and Sakura understood the seriousness of the matter when he spoke to them after the meeting. Once that matter was settled and everyone had agreed, the Hokage ended the meeting, where everyone slowly left the room, quietly talking amongst themselves that they had found out in the meeting. With Naruto in the village. As Naruto was walking through the village, he saw all the different stares he was getting from everyone as he walked by. Many were even whispering to one another as they looked at him and made way from him as he walked through the street. Naruto hated all this as he didn't like all the attention he was getting because it was all about being the heir of the Senju clan, along with the descendant of the Shodaime and Nidaime Hokages and Tsunade's son. It was even worse when he went into grocery stores as people called him Senju-sama, and even tried to give him free stuff, which he refused. Having enough of this, Naruto decided to jump onto the roofs and make his way to one of the training grounds, so he could be alone and train as well as get away from all the people's stares. As he made his way along the rooftops, he suddenly heard some commotion coming from an alleyway he just jumped over. When he looked down, he saw a group of kids with sticks cornering a young pup that looked scared and hurt, where they seemed ready to attack it. Angry at what he saw, Naruto decided to stop it, where he quickly did a few hand seals, and the cried out Suiton, Teppadama, water style, gunshot, and fired several large balls of water from his mouth at the kids' heads, soaking them completely. After which he jumped down between the scared and hurt pup and the kids, who were now soaking wet and laying on the group. I suggest you brats scram it, and leave this pup alone or else you will deal with me," said Naruto angrily. At the sight of Naruto and seeing his headband, the kids got scared and ran off, although as they did, Naruto shouted out, "And if I ever see you picking this pup or any other animal again, I do more than whip you." Once the kids were gone, Naruto turned to the pup that was hunched down against the corner whimper. The pup was a medium brown color, with a mixture of dark brown and light brown, and he had bright blue eyes. Too, as he got a better look at the pup, he saw that it looked more like a wolf, but he doubted that a wolf cub would wander into the village. He guessed that it was half wolf and half dog. Hence he guessed that the pup belonged to the Inuzuka, as they had many different types of dogs, meaning that if the pup belonged to anyone, it was them. As he tried to pick the pup, it growled and tried to bite him. Seeing this, Naruto figured that the pup was scared that he would hurt it. Naruto then went and took out some ham sandwiches he had made for himself to eat later. He then took out some ham out of one of the sandwiches and laid it out on the ground in front of the pup and stepped away from it and waited for the pup to take it. At first the pup did nothing and just watched Naruto cautiously. But soon enough it started to sniff at the ham and slowly crawl over to the ham and started to nibble at the ham. When Naruto saw this, he smiled, and once the pup had eaten the ham, he gave it another piece. Upon eating the second piece, Naruto picked the pup up. When he picked the pup up, yelped and started to struggle. "Hey, easy little guy, I'm not going to hurt you," said Naruto, as he started to pat its head and rub it to get the dog to calm down. Soon enough the pup started to calm down. Naruto gave it another piece of ham, where the pup started to eat it. As it was doing that, Naruto then did a few one-handed hand seals and Shozenjutsu, mystical palm technique, and began to heal the wound he saw on the upper leg, not doubt getting the wound when he was running from those kids that were attacking it. Naruto had learned one-handed hand seals from Shizune, who knew a few, and had taught them him, although he had to learn the rest from reading about them in scrolls. After about a minute or two, Naruto had finished healing the pup's leg wound, after which he then put the pup down and then banged the pup's leg up. When Naruto was done, he smiled down at the pup. "Now doesn't that feel better?" To which the pup yelped again as if saying yes and started to lick his face, which caused Naruto to smile and laugh as the pup licked him. Naruto then picked the pup up again and then said, "Okay little guy, let's see if we can find your home," after which he started to walk to the Inuzuka clan compound, where their kennels were. A little later, and the Inuzuka kennels. As Naruto made his way through the Inuzuka compound, he soon reached the kennels. When he got there, he saw Kiba, who by the look of things was being told off by a young but older-looking girl, who looked to be nearing her later teens, if not early 20s. Also with them were Akamaru and 3 dogs that Naruto guessed belonged to the girl. The girl herself had the traditional fawn-like tattoos of the Inuzuka clan on both of her cheeks, in addition to a tattoo on her upper right arm that resembles a flower. She had long brown hair that was tied into a ponytail that went down between her shoulder blades, with one hairbang on each side of her face. She also wore a standard flak jacket, with black shorts and green armbands. When he got closer, he started to hear what the girl was saying. "How you could be so stupid not to make sure that the gate was closed when you came to feed the pups is beyond me. I had my hands full with their food, and I had about a dozen more chores to do after that. It's not my fault he went off, you know he's never got on with the other pups," replied Kiba, who was annoyed with being told off. But after he said this, he saw Naruto coming towards them. "Senju. What are you doing here? Come to gloat at me cleaning up dog poop? Get over yourself, Kiba. Despite what you think, my world doesn't revolve around you. I just came here to return this pup, which I guessing belongs to you," replied Naruto as he held out the young pup, which yelped upon seeing Kiba and the girl. "Koromaru!" cried the girl as she quickly went over to the pup. She then took the pup from Naruto and held him up. As she did this, the pup licked the girl's face, happy to see her. When he did this, she smiled. As she examined the pup, she noticed his bandaged leg, where she then looked at Naruto and asked him what happened to his leg. "Did you hurt one of our pups, Senju?" accused Kiba as he took a step forward and pointed accusingly at Naruto. "Of course not, I was the one who healed him and saved him from those who attacked him," replied an annoyed Naruto. "Yeah, right," scoffed Kiba, not believing Naruto. Naruto was about to retort to Kiba's comment, but before he could, the girl spoke. stop making such an ass of yourself, Kiba, and shut up for once and let's hear his side of the story. Besides, Koromaru wouldn't have been hurt in the first if you had done your job right and closed the gate when you brought the pups food, rounded the girl. But sis, he spoke Kiba before his sister gave him a glare that told him to shut it, after which she then told Naruto to explain what happened to Koromaru. Naruto then spent the next few minutes explaining to them how he stopped the kids from attacking Koromaru. Once he finished, Kiba's sister narrowed her eyes at hearing how a group of kids attacked Koromaru, where if she had been there, she would have done more than just given them a soaking. When Naruto had finished what had happened, Kiba just scoffed again, and we're just supposed to take your word for that, Senju? It's the truth, replied Naruto as he narrowed his eyes as he was starting to lose his patience with Kiba. Yeah right, I bet, said Kiba, but was interrupted by his sister again. I thought I told you to shut it, Kiba said his annoyed sister. But Hana, you can't actually believe his story? Asked Kiba in disbelief. Why shouldn't I? Asked Hana. He could be lying, for all we know, replied Kiba. If he is and he had attacked Koromaru, why would he heal him? Why would he bring him back here, and why is Koromaru not growling at him or seems scared of him either? For once, Kiba, use what little in brains you have in that thick skull of yours and think about it before you say it, said Hana. At this, Kiba had no answer for and just stomped his foot on the ground angrily, while Naruto just smirked at seeing Kiba being put in his place by his sister Hana. It was at this point that a new person joined the group. What all the commotion going on over here? Spoke a middle-aged and medium-high woman who had animalistic look similar to that of Kiba. She also had long spiky brown hair, vertical slit-like pupils, elongated canine teeth and nails, as well as Inuzuka clan Fong markings on her cheeks, as well as markings over her eyes, and a dark shade of lipstick, and wore a standard outfit of a Konoha shinobi. Accompanying her was a large black dog with an eye patch over its left eye. When Naruto saw her, he guessed that she was Kiba's and Hana's mother due to the similar features she shared with Kiba. Well, Mom, it seems that when Kiba over here was feeding the pups, the baka forgot to shut the gate shut right, and Koromaru got out, where he wandered into the village, and was attacked by a group of kids. Luckily though, Naruto here was nearby and was able to rescue him, and even heal him after he got hurt, spoke Hana. Hana had looked over Koromaru's bandaging when she checked him over, and even though Naruto had no veterinary skills, he had done a pretty good job of treating Koromaru. After giving Kiba a verbal berating about how he should be more careful and telling him that he would be on kennel duty for another month, much to Kiba's misery, Sum turned to Naruto. So, you're the young Senju pup I've been hearing about so much these days, said Sum as she turned to look at Naruto. You have caused quite a stir in both the village and the council lately, especially after what I've heard at the one I was just at a little while ago. Yeah, I bet, replied Naruto with a sigh, as he guessed what many of them were talking about. What are you talking about, Mom? Asked Kiba. Sorry, can't tell. The Hokage forbidden anyone from the council, and those privileged with info from speaking about it to anyone without his say-so first, answered Sumi. Where Kiba just huffed, annoyed at the fact that the council were talking about something about Naruto and he didn't know about it, while his mother and Naruto did. Also, I want to thank you for agreeing to keep the incident with Kiba a secret, said Suma. She was grateful, as it would have disgraced their whole clan had people know about it, even if Kiba had been tricked. At the mention of the incident, Kiba frowned as he did not like reminded of it, where he sulked and looked away. No problem, Inuzuka-sama. I didn't think you clan needed to be embarrassed in front of the whole village, because of a stupid mistake that Kiba made, said Naruto. Hey! Cried Kiba angrily, where he was about to start argue about what Naruto said, but before he could, his mother spoke up. Shut it, Kiba, what he said is true. If you had used your head instead of letting your bruised ego rule you, then you wouldn't have been so easily tricked in the first place, reprimanded Sum angrily, as she was still angry at Kiba for being such a baka. After which she then turned back to Naruto. Call me Tsum, as I don't like those kind of titles. Oh, a world of warning, pup. I suggest that you watch out for some of the other council member, especially those with daughters. As you can bet that they will have their daughter go after you in the hope they can find a way to get you to marry one of them, so to improve the social status along with other things, which I'm sure you know what I mean, spoke Tsum. Where Naruto just nodded as his mother had already told him to watch out for those types of people and girls once his existence and abilities were known to the council and the village. Yeah, I know all about that as I expected it, so I know what to expect from certain people, said Naruto. At this Tsunade nodded, where she and Hana then spent the next few minutes talking to Naruto, where Hana even questioned him on his medical skills when it came to animals as he had shown some decent skills in it when he helped Koromaru. Tell me, Tsum-san, is Koromaru a half-breed of a wolf? Asked Naruto as he had guessed it when he first saw him, but still wasn't sure. Yeah, he is. Replied Tsum as she was surprised that Naruto could tell. How did you know? Well, he oblivious has some of the features of one, but there are a few small differences that say he isn't a full-blooded wolf, answered Naruto as he read up about dog breeding in a book about animals. Tsum was of course impressed further after hearing this. I also couldn't help overhearing Kiba saying that Koromaru doesn't get on too well with the other pups. Why is that? Asked Naruto. Well, one day Koromaru's mother got loose and lost in the forest. A few days later we found her alone, and a few months later she gave birth to Koromaru and his 3 brothers and 3 sisters. We guessed that she must have met a male wolf in the forest and mated with him, and although Koromaru brothers and sister look and act more dog-like, Koromaru looks and acts a little more wolf-like, where he likes to roam around and doesn't like being cooped up in a pen and doesn't get on too well with his siblings and the other pups, replied Tsum. And what about his mother? Asked Naruto. She was killed when on a mission along with her partner, said Tsum sadly. Naruto lowered his head sadly at that as the Koromaru and his sibling were basically orphan pups, although at least they were luckily enough to have the rest of the Inuzuka clan to take care of them. Soon enough though Naruto decided to leave as he had some training to do. As he was walking away Koromaru jumped out of Hana's arms and went over to Naruto and started to pull on his pants and try and stop him from leaving. Well, it seems that Koromaru has taken a liking to you, pup, and doesn't want you to leave, said Tsum with a smile. I guess, said Naruto with own smile as he panted and rubbed the pup's head. I think that you're the only other person other than myself or my mother that Koromaru seems to really like, commented Hana with a smile. Yeah, I think you're right. Maybe you should come around a little more, pup, as I sure Koromaru would like to see you again. Consider he taken a liking to you and you're more than welcome to, said Tsum. Thanks, Tsum-sen, I just might do that. How does that sound to you, boy? Spoke Naruto, where the pup barked, as if agreeing. After a few more minutes Naruto said goodbye to Koromaru, Tsum and Hana, and then headed to one of the training grounds to begin to train. 2 days later at night just outside Konoha. Currently waiting behind the shadow of a large tree of the forest outside of Konoha was a young gray-haired genin with glasses by the name of Kabuto. Kabuto was here to meet with his master Orochimaru, as he had valuable information that he knew his master would be very interested in. Kabuto of course did not have to wait long as Orochimaru appeared out of the tree. SSSSSS Kabuto-kun, what the thias is it that 3 is so important that you needed to CCEE me? Asked Orochimaru with a sinister-like smirk. Well, Orochimaru-sama, I have some news that you will find very interested to learn, replied Kabuto calmly. And what is this news? Asked the snake Sannin. It seems that your former teammate Tsunade-sama has had child, a young boy to be precise, who has just recently become a genin, said Kabuto. At this news Orochimaru, eyes slightly widened. He had never expected Tsunade of all people to ever have a child, due to the loss of her brother and her late lover Dan. Once he got over his shock, he started to smirk a little. Hoo, interesting. Who would have that my old teammate Tsunade would actually have a child? Do you know who the boy's father is? I'm afraid not, Orochimaru-sama, as your former teammate has kept the identity of her spouse and the father of her child a secret as no one seems to know, but we do know that he is dead now, replied Kabuto. And what of the boy's skill level? Asked Orochimaru as he was interested in how his old teammate has trained her young son. I'm afraid I am currently unaware of what the boy is capable of, as the Hokage is keeping the boy's skill level a secret, as very few people know about the boy's skill level, and those that do know are not talking. As from what I gathered, the Hokage has classified the boy's skill level and abilities, answered Kabuto with a slight frown, as he was not used to knowing so little about a subject of interest, and it did annoy him a little. How disappointing, Kabuto-kun. I would have expected better from you, since if my old sensei is going to all this trouble to hide the boy's abilities, they must be something indeed, replied Orochimaru with clear disappointment. Forgive me, Orochimaru-sama, I will make a better effort to learn more about him, replied Kabuto. See that you do, Kabuto-kun. Now can you tell me the boy's name and what team he is on, spoke Orochimaru. The boy's name is Senju Naruto. He is currently on Hatake Kakashi team, and is teamed up Haruno Sakura and young Uchiha Sasuke, who you have asked me look up on, spoke Kabuto calmly, as he knew his master would find that bit interesting. Well now, I must admit it seems that my old sensei has not entirely lost his sense of humor by placing the last heir of the Uchiha clan in Konoha along with the last heir of the Senju clan on the same team together. Not to mention very convenient of him for me, as if young Naruto-kun and young Sasuke-kun prove to be both worthy, I may have two potential vessels on the same team together. It should be interesting to see how those two get on together, spoke Orochimaru. That may be a problem, Orochimaru-sama, spoke Kabuto, suddenly causing the traitorous Sannin to look at him. How so? He asked. Although I have not confirmed if it is true or not, but I have heard a rumor that the boy may be switched to a different team, to whom and for what reason I'm not certain of, as there are many theories, but he may not be on the same team with young Sasuke-kun for much longer, said Kabuto. How disappointing, but regardless it does not really change anything. If he does change teams, I think I will arrange a little test for him before the Chunin exams, to gloss a glimmer of his skill and potential. As I think it's only fitting that I test my old teammate's son capability, said Orochimaru with a sinister smirk on his face. At this Kabuto nodded agreement and told him he would make an effort to keep an eye on Naruto and learn everything he could about him. Before he left to return to the village, Kabuto handed Orochimaru a picture of Naruto, so that he would know what he looks like. When Kabuto left, Orochimaru looked at the photo of Naruto. He could not help but lick his lips of the potential vessel that Naruto might make for him. Ku. I look forward to meeting you, Naruto-kun, as I will be seeing you very soon, said Orochimaru to himself before he disappeared once again into the trees. That's it for this reading. Hit like and subscribe for a free ticket pass going to the different worlds of anime fanfictions. Looking forward to having you on board again.